All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast episode 100. It's been a long road, been a long time coming, I guess. And yeah, episode 100, pretty crazy. For those wondering, I'll just let you know right off the bat here, we're not doing anything, different. It's just going to be, what you would expect from any other Press X Podcast episode. Not really the celebratory type, really. So I just kind of wanted to keep it pretty casual. Saying I need to fix the mic. Oh, okay, mic should be fixed. Sorry about that. Once again, my audio software. I don't know why it's just been doing this thing where it runs in the background, but it just kind of closed itself again. So we have right off the bat here couple of super chats. Pragmaticat says, "Happy Sunday, MBG." Well, thank you for that. Hope your Sunday goes well. We have Viper Reaps Corner with a $20 super chat, which is very generous. Thank you so much. You're saying congrats on the century mark. Yeah, thank you for that, buddy. Really appreciate the support. We certainly couldn't have made it to 100 episodes if it wasn't for you guys and the constant support that you show the channel. The podcast each week. I mean, I started my YouTube channel by just doing regular video content, which I still do. But I remember, I think it was, let me see, I think it was like early 2020. A lot of you guys were asking me, like, MBG, you ever going to start a podcast? You ever going to do anything like that? And I was just thinking to myself, it's a big leap for me. It's a big step. And I decided I'll go for it. And I was really nervous because I was like, a solo podcast, I feel like those are extremely uncommon, almost unheard of. But I was like, you know what? We'll do it. And Pragmaticat, once again, wow, thank you, buddy, with a $100 super chat. That is incredibly, incredibly generous of you. Seriously, that is that is incredible. Very, very kind of you guys. Anybody who is donating super chats, but especially when you're donating large sums of money like that, seriously, that is incredibly, and you're still going. That is incredibly kind of you, buddy. You're saying, with your $100 super chat, you're saying I am a one-issue voter controller. Let me bring it up here. I experimented with the pleasantly large 360 controller in middle school, but I've been a PlayStation controller fan since the PlayStation 1, my own first console being a PlayStation 2, and after full assessment, I have been Team PlayStation controller since PS3. Well, that's very interesting. You're talking about controllers and which ones really kind of suit you. I thought the 360 controller was a great controller. My first console, I think my first ever console experience, believe it or not, was, I don't know if it was an NES or an SNES, but the one I remember is the N64, and that was a bizarre controller. I remember even as a very young child thinking this is a very strange controller, but I didn't know any better. And then I played the PlayStation 1, but the 360 controller really stood out to me. PS3 controller obviously wasn't very different. The DualShock 4 was awesome. But for me, yeah, the DualSense, I mean, the evolution of all the PlayStation controllers combined, I think the DualSense is the king, frankly. But thank you again for that super chat, man. That is extremely generous of you. I wasn't expecting that at all. Very, very, very kind of you, buddy. And Pragmaticat, you donated another $50, which is, wow. Thank you so much, man. When I say that you guys truly are the backbone of this podcast as well as the entire channel, I sincerely mean that. You're saying, looking back today, the 6-axis is way better quality than the 360 controller. Oh. Even so-called Sony fanboys always said the Xbox controller is better. They just like PlayStation's games, but now that the DualSense is thick, everybody is a big fan. Yeah, I remember when with the PS3, I think they tried to do they tried to do, I forget. I mean, it was such a straight. I remember they had a boomerang controller for the PS3, that was like a prototype, and it was so bad that they were like, you know what, let's not do that. And people had complaints out of the gate with the PlayStation controller, the PlayStation 3 controller, because it was so light. It was like a feather. It was like too light. People didn't like that, so they added the rumble back in. But but yeah, I mean, dude, the DualSense is no doubt the thickest PlayStation controller we've ever had, and I don't know. I don't think it. How do you get better than the DualSense? I don't know. I don't know. I remember some people were a little bit skeptical at first with the DualSense because it was such a departure from the traditional, like, you know, DualSense or DualShock. I'm getting them confused at this point. It was such a departure from the traditional DualShock. Sony kind of kept it the same. I mean, the DualShock 4 was the biggest departure, but yeah, the DualSense on another level. But thank you so much, Pragmatic Cat. That is a very, very generous of you. I mean, anybody who's donating a super chat, seriously, very, very generous of you, very kind. Um, and again, I really appreciate it. Jacob Novik, you're saying, so I gave the state of play an 8, 9 out of 10. I'm most hyped for Exo Primal. The TMNT collection surprised me enjoying this on my 22nd birthday. How are you? Well, happy birthday, Jacob. I'm doing well. You know, I got over I don't know if it was COVID or not. All right, so I want to say that now. I don't know if I had COVID. I've been sick a couple times since the beginning of the year, and I can only assume that one of those times it was COVID. But the past week, dude, I've gotten over my sickness. Like, I feel better. I don't feel sick, but I've been having like some lingering issues that have just been bothering me. Like, I'm getting like have like a bit of shakiness in my arms, kind of stemming from like my back. And me and my wife were looking into it. I mean, obviously, I'm going to see a doctor at some point if it doesn't go away. But apparently, a lot of people who catch COVID, they have like these like lingering long-term symptoms that just affect people. Like, it affects everybody differently. And it like apparently one of the common things that people are complaining about is they get like, I'm not like super, like I'm not like this, you know, but they get like shaky, or they get like this vibrating feeling in their arms or whatever. And I guess a lot of doctors are like, we don't really know what this is. We don't know exactly what's causing it, but it seems to be linked to COVID potentially. So I don't know. I'm definitely going to have to go, you know, get it checked out and whatnot. So, you know, I've been doing good overall. It's not like affecting my life or getting in the way, but it's been a little weird. You know, I think that's like the best way I can put it. It's been a little weird, and I'm not really sure how to feel about it other than just a little bit bothered. But yeah, you know, I figured I'd give you guys an update because you're saying MBG's turning into a zombie. Yeah, I don't know, man. This might be the beginning. This might be the beginning. You're saying they mentioned long COVID. Yeah, that's what kind of came up. It's really weird. I don't know. But all in all, other than that, I've been feeling pretty okay. You know, just kind of it's been an interesting week, all in all. I gotta be honest. It's been a very interesting week. You're saying my coworker lost his hearing in one ear for months and still hasn't got hearing back since getting COVID. That's crazy, man. Yeah, that is crazy. It seems like COVID is having some type of weird effect on people. Like, it's just affecting people differently, and they're like lingering effects as well. Very strange. Very strange. So, yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated, obviously, over time. But other than that, yeah, I mean, putting that aside, this past week, I don't know, man. Some weird stuff going on. Some weird stuff going on. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later. Inspector Guru, you're saying happy 100th episode, MBG. Went back and listened to the first live stream I heard on your channel, which was the 2020 June showcase. Man, those were some crazy times. LOL. Yeah, dude, they were some really insane episodes. I mean, I look back, you know, kind of reflecting, and I guess it's appropriate to reflect a little bit on the 100th episode. So, you know, occasionally I look back at my older content, not too often, but when I do, I notice that there are some podcast episodes during that time. You're talking about like June 2020, really when it was the thick of the ramp up to the PS5 and the next gen consoles. I mean, dude, there are some episodes that are sitting at like 60, 70, 80, 90,000 views. And it's so crazy to me because these are like long podcast episodes. These are like a couple of hours long. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I remember when I was doing that podcast, the podcast wasn't even a year old. I did not realize that any of these episodes would ever get that much viewership. Now, granted, that was a different time. Again, it was the thick of the build up to the PS5. More people, people were in lockdown, and so it just made sense that maybe people were looking to consume that type of content much more then than they are now in some instances. But that was crazy, And I still remember my very first podcast episode. I was so nervous to do it because I'd never done anything like it before, and at the time, I wasn't even on camera. Actually, it took a while before I went on camera for the podcast. And the first episode, I think we talked about Cyberpunk. I just remember Cyberpunk being in the thumbnail. And yeah, we've had certainly some interesting episodes, some very interesting episodes throughout the 100 episodes that we have here total. I mean, there were times where I was just full blown rant mode, meltdown, whatever. I've said some stupid things, that's for sure. And I will probably continue to say some very stupid things occasionally. It comes with the territory, Saying it was so weird seeing me on camera for the first time. Yeah, it took a lot, man. It took a lot to kind of conjure up the confidence to go on camera. But people liked it. People responded really positively. The first time I ever went on camera was with my unboxing of the PS5, and it was a good time. It was a good time. So thank you for that. Green Owl Gill, you're saying happy 100 episodes. Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you for the support. Pragmatic Hat, you're saying, well, I'm not a fan of them. Day one PlayStation controller fanboy. Well, I mean, hey, man, there's been a lot of controllers over the decades, pretty much just all some weird controllers. A lot of people have their own preferences, and everybody's hands are different. And I just think that, like, honestly, I think for both PlayStation and Xbox, like, even as somebody who does prefer the DualSense, I think that Xbox still has come a long way with their controller. And I think that the only thing that at this point the Xbox controller is missing is the haptic feedback and resistance triggers that the DualSense offers. And I think that if Microsoft could find a way to incorporate that into their controller, I think it'd be a game changer for a lot of Xbox fans. Because us PlayStation fans, we've been trying to tell them, like, dude, DualSense is where it's at. But yeah, thank you for that, buddy. Zay Very Rare, you're saying, good morning, MBG. I hope your morning is going well so far. I went with a blue blade build in Elden Ring. I'm absolutely enjoying it. Positive vibes only. Well, thank you so much for that, dude. Yeah, my build in Elden Ring right now is pretty basic. I'm just going with a traditional strength dex build, but mainly strength. I'm leaning more towards strength. That's kind of how I've played all of these games. I'm hoping with Elden Ring, it's a game I plan to play for a very long time because there's just so much to it. There's so much to experience that I'm not rushing it at all, but I could easily see myself still playing this game a year from now. And when I do, inevitably complete the game, I mean, I hope I complete the game, and I go back and start another run, I would like to try to experiment with different builds because I've never really done like a magic build or a faith build or anything like that in these games. I've always just done strength. And I don't know, I like playing the game that way. I like getting some of the most powerful weapons. And when you build up your strength enough, you're finally able, like, it's a really great feeling to be able to finally, like, okay, I got this awesome, great axe or, ultra great sword that's ridiculously huge. And I finally got like 50 strength, I can use it. And then you just maybe you find out that the weapon isn't as good as you thought because it's like, okay, it swings really slow, it's really cumbersome, it's actually harder to use than I expected. But yeah, man, I'm glad you're enjoying Elden Ring. We're gonna talk. So we definitely have something to talk about that I didn't cover in a video earlier this week. We have to talk about some developers apparently getting crushed, man. This was like the cause of a lot of discourse over the past week. And I did not throw myself into the thick of it because I just wasn't feeling up to it at the time. And I still don't know if I'm feeling totally up to it, but I know that there's a lot of conversation surrounding it. And frankly, there's not a whole lot to talk about right now. By that, I mean it's been like a slower news week in general. So we'll definitely talk about that. Well, I mean, Horizon developers coming out and saying some things about, and Ubisoft devs saying some things about Elden Ring, and it started pretty much a war online, which was pretty weird and random. But thank you for that, Zay Very Rare. We have Pragmatic Cat once again, buddy. Thank you for all the super chats you're saying. Oh my God, MBG, you must have nerves of steel. The show must go on. Yeah, nerves of steel. Yeah, it's funny because the shakiness that I feel, it's like, yep, nerves of steel. All right. Long live Press X podcast. I look forward to celebrating your 100th birthday next. I mean, dude, it would be incredible if I made it to 100. I'm telling you right now, there ain't no way I'm making it to 100. Not to be morbid, but dude, I mean, look, most people don't make it to 100. It's a pretty insane feat to make it to 100 years of age. So we'll see. Also, I don't imagine, if I make it to like 65, 70 years old, coming on here, episode, God knows what, episode, 1200, 1500 of Press X podcast. I don't know if my math lines up there, but yeah, it does kind of make you wonder, like, how long will I be doing this? How long will I have a podcast? Do I see myself 10 years from now still doing this podcast? 15 years from now? I mean, I want to say yeah. I want to say I definitely could. Why not, So thank you for that, buddy. Green Al Gill, you're saying, what was your favorite moment or episode? Oh, that's a good question, Green Al Gill, but that's a tough one. I'm gonna try to just let whatever comes to mind first. Let that be what does it. So this is a really random one. Maybe it's not. I don't know. See, this isn't my favorite podcast episode, but it's just I remember it because of how strange it ended up. I remember there was a time, I think it was late 2020, where I did an episode, I think it was in like November or something, and it was about like a 2-hour long episode, but something had happened in the middle of the episode where like somebody was trying to do something with my account or I don't know what was going on, but things got really weird all of a sudden, and I had to end it. And I was pretty upset because like I didn't want to end it, and I was like, this is this is I wasn't finished my episode. I had a lot more to say. And I remember like I sorted out what I had to sort out, and then I came back like an hour or two later with a second, like a part 2 of the podcast that same day. And I remember what I was surprised about is how obviously not everybody came back. I had more viewership with the first episode, but I was quite surprised at just how many people still came back and wanted to finish out like a whole, like just a completely separate stream, second episode. That's the one thing when you're a streamer or a content creator, is the last thing you want to do is have to restart a stream or reset up a stream, because at that point the chances of retaining your audience drop pretty significantly. So that was a pretty memorable episode because of just how strange the circumstances were. But I remember I had a couple episodes with Brown Sugar. I don't know how many of you guys remember that. I think I had 2 or 3 episodes really early on where I brought my best friend onto the podcast, and we talked gaming a little bit, and it wasn't awkward. It was pretty good, I think. But maybe I'll have to bring him back. But I experimented with that, so that was definitely memorable. I don't remember if you guys remember that, but yeah. Another memory, and this is the last one that I can think of just right off the top of my head, is I remember when the PS5 and Xbox Series X launched. Oh man, the conversation stemming from Digital Foundry at that time, because people were so eager to learn what is going on with the PS5 and the Series X. Oh, you know what? Thank you, JDTV. I don't know if that was on my podcast, but you're saying the clown when I dressed up as a clown. So I'm pretty sure that wasn't a podcast. I think that was for the Game Awards stream in December, but we can count that. We can count that. That was certainly memorable. And I know that you didn't forget that. I know you didn't forget that, JDTV. But yeah, I remember when the PS5 and Series X came out, it was like people were just dying to know, like, is the Series X the be all end all? You know, is there going to be a massive difference? Is the PS5 holding its own? And it was fun because the results were unexpected. There were cases where the PS5 was actually outperforming the Series X, and it created this whole conversation. And it was a good time. It was a good time. So it's fun. It's fun reflecting a little bit here. Jordan, you're saying came for the Blue Box Game Studios BS, stuck around for a while. Thank you for the well thought out discussions and perspectives. I appreciate that. All for the love of gaming as art. Keep it up, 100K. Well, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I gained quite a bit of followers from the whole Blue Box thing, and that was look. I mean, I know that was a weird time, and you know there are people who are like perpetually angry at that situation, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. But man, it was fun. It was really fun. You know, like it was a weird, bizarre situation that just came out of nowhere. Nobody knew what was going on. And it really felt like, you know, we're trying to uncover something here. We're trying to figure it out. And it was really, really awesome. I remember that people really were very supportive of that, because I think that they were feeling kind of the same thing that I was, which was, this is exciting. This is intriguing. This is different. And even though it maybe ended with a whimper, you know, still, it created quite a few good memories. So thank you for that, Jordan. Fabrice Paul, you're saying MBG in 2021, Xbox had the largest average Metascore in history on Metacritic without Bethesda Game Pass. Without Bethesda, Game Pass have quality games. And if you're saying, and if is stopped, we can talk with our wallet. I'm not sure if I'm hold on. And if it's stopped, we can talk with our wallet. Sorry, I'm trying to read this. What do you want more? Well, I'm not sure that I understand what you're asking entirely, but you mentioned the Xbox Metacritic score. That's actually one of the topics. That's actually one of the topics that we're going to be discussing over the course of this episode today, because that was something that I saw making the rounds. Now, I didn't make a dedicated video on it, and I didn't talk about it, but there are basically two aspects to that conversation or that topic that I want to acknowledge. And so we'll talk about that. You're saying, you know, Game Pass does have quality games. Yeah, I mean, look, I want to save what I have to say about it when we get to that topic, but just hang tight. Don't worry. We'll be covering that. There's actually, I think, 2 Xbox related topics we're covering today. So thank you for that, Fabrice. Mr. Unknown, you're saying Hassan has said the tech demo is about to drop. LOL. Yeah, I don't know, man, but I think I still have the app installed. And so yeah, I mean, at this point, we can't really take what Hassan says very seriously at all. So I'm just in a position when it comes to the whole abandoned thing where I'm not going to act, mad about it. I'm not going to be like, I'm not even touching that. I can't believe it. Like, look, I'm not upset. It's just, I'll just wait patiently. And when they decide to drop something, if that day ever comes, I'll check it out. And we'll see what it is. And I'll be sure to report it to you guys. So Yeah, JDTV, you're saying it's episode 100. Will we see the legend return? I mean, no, dude, I'm not gonna look. I'm I don't even know where my clown wig is at this point. I think I lost it. But if there's another situation that arises where I have to wear the clown wig, I will. I'll even rebuy it if I have to. But I'll take a portion of your super chat, JDTV, and I'll buy another clown wig if I have to. I'm sure it's somewhere around. I don't know what I did with it, but I'm not gonna wear it today. Whiskey Gaming. Wow, thank you so much, buddy, for that $50 super chat. That is extremely kind of you. Guys, overwhelming with the super chats. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are extremely kind. It's quite surprising. You're saying congrats on the 100th episode. Missed a few episodes while moving out of my apartment. Favorite game that's been released since starting the podcast. Huh. That's a good one. That's a good one. So if I started the podcast, I think in early 2020. So it's been a few years. Wow. Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, I've played a lot of really great games since the start of the podcast. I mean, in 2020, there was Demon Souls Remake. And I don't know if that was my favorite game, but that's one of the games. Like I even still have it behind me here. I don't know if you can see it behind Horizon. That's one of my favorite games because I remember like covering the launch of the PS5 and the build up to it. Demon Souls Remake was rumored for like a year, and it started to become obvious that yeah, this is real. And that got me really excited because I never got the chance to actually experience Demon Souls, but the Dark Souls games are like, some of my favorite games of all time. And I'd played Bloodborne and I was like, Demon Souls, like a full PS5 remake, that would be something awesome to play. And I mean, I was so excited to play it that I streamed myself playing it. And I remember that was crazy too. Like that stream got like 90,000 views the launch day of the PS5, which I wasn't expecting, but to me it felt like the perfect game to play on my PS5 at launch. So that's a game that still kind of stands out to me. I mean, I'm playing Horizon now. I don't know that I know some people might think this is crazy, but I don't know that I like Horizon. Like there are aspects of Horizon that I do like more so. Like I'm really enjoying, and I liked it. I'm liking it more than Demon Souls Remake. But Demon Souls Remake, just something about it, I don't know. There was Returnal, and Returnal, it's not my favorite game that I played, but that's one that definitely stands out. Yeah, I mean, let me look at my games here, get a better idea. I enjoyed Ratchet and Clank. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut either. Man, I'm looking at myself on the screen here. I gotta shave the back of my neck. Sheesh. It's getting hairy back there. I gotta groom myself. Damn. But I'm not gonna say Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut because I mean, technically that game came out before. It came out before my podcast started. But with the Director's Cut, that's when I really sat down and just I played it in its entirety, and I extracted everything from that game that I possibly could, including Legends. And so that was a big one for me as well. Spider-Man Miles Morales was really good, surprisingly good. So I think I'm gonna have to say right now, it feels kind of like a tie. It feels kind of like a tie between Horizon Forbidden West right now and Demon Souls Remake. And so for now, I'm going to say Demon Souls Remake because I finished it. But by the time I'm finished with, I'm finding that the more I play Horizon, like it really, I don't know, man. It's quite the experience so far. So I'll leave it as a tie between those two for now. But thank you again so much, Whiskey Gaming. It's a very, very generous donation of you. Really, really appreciate that. Star Screams 3117, you're saying congrats on your 100th episode. Now to hit 100K subs. Love the content. Keep up the good work. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like in order for us to get to 100,000 subscribers here, it's gonna take, I think, not a completely different approach, but some things are going to have to potentially change. I really don't know. I don't really create the content that I create these days just for the sake of, oh, I want to bring on more subs. I mean, if that was the goal, I could be doing things very differently. You know, my main goal with my channel right now and the subscribers that I do have is to provide the content that I believe they want most. Um, and it's a really tough balance because you want to get people excited. You want to give people a real reason to click the videos and to click on the content. But the nature of my channel, like I'm not like a video game reviewer. You know, we cover a lot of news, a lot of rumors, leaks. Sometimes, as we've learned this past week, sometimes to my own detriment. But the one thing that I really enjoy about the content that I make on the channel is that, you know, there's clearly a portion of my audience that is like ride or die, you know, like just I call you guys like the backbone of the channel, but I really do call you guys that because you will be here for anything I do and you will show your support for anything I do. And that is important to me. And I always want to make sure that I'm providing the type of content that, well, I mean, it's not like you guys expect a certain flavor of content. You know, the point is you support what I do and you'll support what I do no matter what. But I just want to make sure I'm always doing stuff like this, like the podcast, and make sure I'm streaming and make sure I'm just doing things that can allow you guys to interact more. And it allows me to create more of a personality on the channel and a persona. But I think that as we go further into this year and in the next year or two, you know, I'm going to have to maybe explore some different avenues. And just by that, I just mean maybe try to flesh out the content a little bit. It's harder than it sounds. It's never easy, but we'll see what we can do. For now, though, you know, I'll just keep trucking along and doing what I've been doing and try to improve it in any way I can. Definitely learning some lessons along the way, too. Definitely learning some lessons along the way. So thank you for that. PlayStation Pete, you're saying, congrats, episode 100. You are the voice of PlayStation Horizon Fixed Finished Story. Tried body armor banana strawberry. Oh, nice, man. I'm assuming you liked it. You sound like you liked it, so I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I'm not like addicted to body armor, but it's great to have. I used to be type of person that drank Gatorade all the time and occasionally Powerade. And Gatorade was like my go-to. And ever since I discovered, it was actually my wife who introduced me to body armor. And I remember at first I was kind of like, oh yeah, that's cool. You know, like I didn't really care. But then I started drinking them more and more. And I'm like, you know, these things are pretty good. And then I'm looking at like the contents. I'm like, these are like 10 times healthier than Gatorade. And ever since then, I just stuck to it. But thank you so much, man. I'm glad you see me as like the voice of PlayStation. I'm trying my best. So thank you. And then we have, let's see, Pragmatic Cat once again, member for 6 months, plays the Limits Plus. 100 with, I don't know how many heart emojis that is, but it looks like quite. Is it 100 heart emojis? Is it? Either way, thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate all the love and support you guys show the channel. So, yeah, a little bit of reflecting here, which is always fun and always interesting and not something I do too often, but I think for episode 100, it definitely, you know, it definitely, I think, makes the most sense. So, guys, just coming out here and just full-fledged, you know, flexing your support, showing your support. We are going to, we're going to dive into the first topic, though. I know it's a little bit late into the episode, so I apologize for that. But, you know, you guys know how it is at this point. You guys know what to expect. All right, so before we do that, we have over 660 people here hanging out with me, which is awesome. Just a couple ways. I probably should have said this at the top, but you guys know the drill. You know, you want to continue to support the podcast. You know, if you like can't donate a super chat, not a big deal at all. Just watching the content, hitting the like button. making sure to like the stream, that definitely helps it out. And, you can consider maybe becoming a channel member, just sharing the content out. All these little things, they may not seem significant, but believe me when I tell you, they help tremendously. JDTV, you're saying, I want to take this moment to say thank you for everything you do. Love your content and this community. P.S. It's my birthday in 1 month. My wish. Unfortunately, JDTV, I'm going to look. I will say this. If the clown ever comes back, that'll be it'll definitely be a belated birthday gift to you. But, I wish you happy birthday now. I know it's 1 month from now, but appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I know that you're passionate about the clown. I know you're passionate about it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, okay? No one knows. No one knows. All right. So the first topic I want to dive into, I was going to cover it in a video, but I was like, you know what? There's a lot to unpack here. And so I figured we'll save it for the stream or for the podcast. So, I put in my title, Devs Crushed for Criticizing Elden Ring. And what makes this particularly interesting when it comes to the PlayStation aspect of this is apparently there was either one or two developers that are from Guerrilla Games and worked on Horizon. And so that really, every big name YouTuber was covering this. Excuse me. And it really, I don't know, man, it really kind of blew up. And when I say that these developers got crushed, they really got crushed. And I just kind of want to dissect this a little bit and talk about whether or not, I'm just going to give my opinion on whether or not I feel like they deserved it, or, whether I agree with them or disagree with them. Pragmatic Cat, again, you're saying M6G, I think PlayStation Priest Church is in session. I think you meant to say MBG. I don't know, though. How do you put a 6 instead of whatever? It's cool, man. M6G. Chris, you're saying apparently no one is allowed to say anything bad about Elden Ring. Well, this reminds me, believe it or not, of the situation we saw with The Last of Us Part 2. And I'm letting you know now, I'm not diving into that. But I'm just saying, just seeing the way the reactions from people and how it creates a situation where it's very difficult to have a nuanced conversation where you are taking a balanced approach and you're evaluating both sides of the coin equally, and then coming to I guess you could say, I don't want to say logical conclusion, but a tame conclusion that isn't just completely off the rails. And that's what I mean. The situation, I see somebody saying The Last of Us 2 is way different. Obviously the context, yes, it completely different, night and day. But I'm just saying, when you begin to see how these things they get out of hand, is what I'm trying to say. They get out of hand. And I saw what was happening with Elden Ring and Horizon and Ubisoft devs. And you're scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through YouTube, and you just see how, my God, man, like it's a big, like, people are making a very big deal of it. And that's the thing that I find interesting. And that's kind of really where I want to look at this, and I want to analyze it, and I want to try to come to a conclusion, like, is this as big of a deal as people are making it sound? And what are the bigger implications of this? That's the question I'm asking, because if people are going to make a big deal of it, then that implies that there is a bigger implication. And if there is a bigger implication, what is it? We need to identify that. That's my goal when talking about this topic. Young G, you're saying future game show March 24th with 8 world premieres. Probably nothing, though. Heard PlayStation will be there. Yeah, I'm going to be real right now, Young G. When it comes to trying to predict what PlayStation's going to do next, I'm going to try my best to just stray away from that, because I did that thing once again the past couple of weeks where I got ahead of myself, and I started to believe that I have a good idea of what Sony's going to do. And I based that idea, and I based those thoughts off of what insiders and what people are saying and the rumors and the conversation. And I'm just tired of being burned by it. I'm tired of being burned by it. I'm tired of making my own mistakes where I'm too quick. I'm too quick to jump on these things because I allow my inner, boyish excitement that, when it comes to PlayStation and gaming, it just takes hold and it leads the way and it blinds me and it makes me naive. It makes me gullible and it bites me in the ass. Not every time, but most of the time it does. And so, King Sausage, nice name, man. You're saying MBG, add Miles Morales to your background. We need at least one non-white representative. LOL. That's the thing is like I have so many different backgrounds. I feel bad because Rick, the guy that I work with, he's a cool dude. I think I annoy him because I can never make decisions. He made me a bunch of different backgrounds, and I think I may have one with Miles Morales. I switch sometimes my theme from black to blue and from blue to black, and I'm sticking with the blue for now. So I'm actually, I'm gonna check now just because if you guys knew how many of these banners I had and I've been trying to save some of them, but I am curious. So let me check here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I got one right here. Yep, here we go. I have one with Miles Morales. It's a black and white background. I got Miles Morales, Celine. I got Aloy, Cloud, Sir Galahad, Joel. So I have to use that one at some point. But yeah, definitely got to make sure we're including all of the PlayStation characters. So, it's here's my question, because I really don't know. Is Kratos? I feel like Kratos. A lot of people see him as like, even though his skin is gray because of the ashes, I think a lot of people have perceived Kratos as like a black man. I know he's Greek, but like I just feel like everything, like he just has that presence, and I'm like, yeah, but I know like in the games he's white, right? But yeah. But am I the only one who is kind of like, you're saying his voice is black? Yeah, I mean it is. It is. Like he has that, I don't know. I just feel like people have kind of gotten that feel from Kratos. That's how I took it before, But you know what, actually? You know what? That just made me that just reminded me. God, they're apparently Amazon and Sony are they are in talks to create a. You guys are saying that Kratos has like an olive tone skin. Yeah, true, Greek. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, how do you guys feel about that, man? We got Sony and Amazon apparently in talks to do a live. You're saying David Jaffe has confirmed that Kratos is black? Okay, I mean, I would have to verify that, but I mean, he is like technically he is the creator of God of War, so yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that, right? I don't know, but yeah, dude, I don't know about this whole idea of a live action God of War. Like the thing is, I want to be hopeful. You're saying no, Jaffe said he is olive skin, not black. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just move on from this topic because, it could go on for probably days, saying his son is literally white. Well, we'll just go based off of how he's portrayed in the games right now, which is he's gray. He's ash. He's ash colored. So, well, that's fine. Kratos has his own thing going on there. But I really don't know. Like I really don't know if this God of War live action series is a good idea because I mean, I feel like we just got the Uncharted movie, and I did see the Uncharted movie, and I didn't think the Uncharted movie was great, but I just kind of thought, like, it could have been just so much worse. And there were some good moments, and overall, it was like, yeah, that wasn't that bad. That was pretty decent. I enjoyed my time watching that movie. I was pleasantly surprised how they seemingly didn't completely butcher it. I mean, I feel like it was still difficult to see Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Like, I feel like it's just like, here's a completely different version of Sully. Like, here's what Sully could have been like. I feel like Tom Holland did a pretty good job as Drake, but he still didn't really feel like Drake. But I could also kind of get a young Drake vibe from him. And so I'm just saying this because it's like, okay, Sony, in my opinion, has succeeded with, with what they achieve or wanted to achieve with the Uncharted movie. But, we know that they're taking this, and I'm going to get back to the main topic. I'm just going on this little side quest here, right? This, just because it's something that I really, I don't know, man. Like Twisted Metal TV show, I don't know about that, man. I mean, it's one of these things where they're gonna have to really, I think, prove something with a Twisted Metal TV show. And I don't want to see Sony do something stupid. That's all. With like these great stories and these great characters, because I feel like it could really go, like God of War in particular. I really don't know, man. Like, I really don't know. How do you make a successful God of War TV series? Like, a lot of people were saying it should have been a movie that they were going to do, and I have to agree with that. I don't know how you make a God of War show. Like, I feel like a game like The Last of Us, that getting a TV series, that makes more sense. Like an HBO series, yeah. I see you saying, somebody saying a movie would suck. I don't know. I don't know. I'm having a difficult time imagining just a live adaptation of God of War in general. And I have a feeling it's just going to go badly. I don't want it to. I hope I'm wrong. And maybe I will be wrong, because I was convinced. Guys, I was completely convinced that the Uncharted movie was going to be just a complete dumpster fire. And so maybe they can, prove me wrong. There's going to be a Ghost of Tsushima movie as well. That I'm highly interested in. Because I feel like you would have to really go out of your way to screw up a Ghost of Tsushima movie. Like, I feel like Ghost of Tsushima, believe it or not, can be adapted very well and very easily into a good movie. But we will see. You're saying a God of War show like Invincible would be good. Yeah, it'll probably be some time before we see it, so we'll just take it as it comes, Pragmaticat, you're saying, I, John, hereby baptize you, MG6, as PlayStation priest. Okay. All right. Reyes, you're saying we also have the Metal Gear Solid movie being made as well. Totally forgot about that. They got Oscar Isaac, I think, right? To play Solid Snake. Now that, oh man, I'm so nervous about that one, man. I'm so nervous about that, because that can, you want to talk about a movie that could go wrong in a million different ways? Oh man. Metal Gear Solid. I mean, I feel like it's right there. It's right there. Like, just do what Kojima did, because he already made his game cinematic. Just do what he did. Take that essence. Can we just have Kojima direct the Metal Gear Solid movie? Like this, I mean, I know that can't happen because of Konami and everything, but man, I remember a long time ago, Hideo Kojima said that if it was up to him, who he would cast as Snake, I believe he said Viggo Mortensen. And I mean, he's too old now. Maybe he could play like a big boss character, but an older big boss. But I agree, he would have been perfect as Snake, absolutely. And Oscar Isaac, I don't know, I think he could probably nail the role as well. So, but I feel like we've been hearing about a Metal Gear Solid movie for years, and we still haven't gotten anything yet. So We'll see. It's going to be an interesting day, though, when we get that first trailer. Oh, boy, that's going to be an interesting day. Christian Bale, yeah, he could have. I remember Christian Bale said he wanted to play Snake. I'm like, he would have been good. Yeah, he's a great actor. KD, a member for 4 months. Greatness awaits. Thank you, buddy. You're saying big MBG, the big 100. Don't stop killing it. Don't entertain negative energy and don't stop being you. With that said, PlayStation Gang, still smoking that Xbox pack. Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I see you here every week, KD, and I appreciate the continued support. I'll keep it going, man. I'll keep it going. King Sausage, again, you're saying God of War could be very similar to The Witcher. I think it can work. You know, I have not seen The Witcher, but my best friend keeps telling me almost aggressively, like, watch The Witcher. It's really, really, really good. And he really talks about just how good it is. And I'm like, I guess I will have to at some point. But if maybe you're right about that, actually, because The Witcher is apparently like an amazing adaptation and it's really good. And so I guess that does kind of prove you can take that, high fantasy element and really do it right, do it justice. So, and do it in a form of a TV series. So yeah, maybe it could be like that, man. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I apologize going way off track there. We're going to get back. I want to read this article. All right. I want to read this article from PlayStation Lifestyle. Ubisoft and Sony developers criticize Elden Ring performance and design. And so we're going to read this, and I'm going to give my thoughts on it. It says, a trio of Ubisoft and PlayStation Studios developers are catching flack for publicly criticizing Elden Ring's performance, user experience, and quest design. It all started with a tweet by Ubisoft's UX designer, Ahmed Salama, who since locked his Twitter profile, complaining that Elden Ring's Metacritic score of a 97 is, quote, proof, end quote, that reviewers, quote, don't give a flaming poop, end quote, about the UX. Rebecca Fernandez O'Shea, a graphics programmer at Sony-owned Nixxes Software, chimed in and suggested that reviewers didn't care about Elden Ring's PC graphics, stability, and performance either. Horizon Forbidden West senior quest designer Blake Rabouche, I think I'm saying his name correctly, whose profile is also locked, joined his peers and criticized Elden Ring's quest design. The aforementioned tweets ended up upsetting Elden Ring fans, but a number of social media users have defended the developers, arguing that they are allowed to voice their opinions on a game like anyone else. Jumping to O'Shea's defense, Digital Foundry's John Linneman said that From Software's tech is, quote, flawed, end quote, and, quote, nearly every version, end quote, of Elden Ring has, quote, serious performance issues, end quote. I probably should just read his damn tweet. I'm saying, quote, end quote, quote, end quote. I'm just going to read his tweet. I'm going to read all the tweets, actually. Well, actually, I only have the picture up here of, I don't know if they deleted the tweets, but here's, John Linneman said in response to this, he said, no, I cover tech for a living. Let me click on this and see if it brings me to the whole thread. Sorry, I should have had this set up. Okay, so Rebecca Fernandez O'Shea on March 6th tweeted out, I guess this was after, she criticized Elden Ring. She said, well, as an upside to the barrage of Elden Ring fans harassing me under the mistaken belief that I was shitting on their game, a bunch of students saw my pinned tweet and have been asking about getting into programming. So she's trying to, use it as a gateway to bring more people in, which is nice. But let me see. So a bunch of people were just basically getting on her case, and John Linneman said, no, I cover tech for a living, and Elden Ring falls short there. It's my favorite open world game of all time, but the engine has serious issues. The frame rate is unstable on every single platform. That deserves critique. And, I was looking across the internet, okay, and it was popping up everywhere, all over my feed, all these videos of people just losing their ever-loving minds over this. And it became a fucking war. And that's what's sad. Like, that's what's sad about this, where the one thing that this really spawned was essentially a divide where there are gamers who are you're either on team Elden Ring or you're on team like Horizon slash Ubisoft style open world games. Now, I think that there are certainly differences between Ubisoft style open world games and say a game like Horizon, but there are also many similarities. There are many more similarities between those types of games than Elden Ring. Elden Ring is almost like something entirely different, something unique, and it doesn't follow the mold. And here's the thing about this, okay? There are three separate developers saying three separate things. And I think they're kind of getting bunched up into one. So let's take Horizon's lead quest designer. He basically criticized Elden Ring for having a lack of what you would consider traditional quest design. Now, traditional quest design, and again, emphasizing the word traditional, you look at a lot of Ubisoft games, you look at a lot of Sony open world games that have side quests, and they're all very, very similar. There's like a certain formula that is followed, and it's pretty much followed throughout the entire gaming industry, and it's looked at as a standard where it's like you go up, excuse me, there's a marker on your map that tells you where you get your quest. You go to that marker. You then have some dialogue where the characters more often than not are explicitly telling you, like, this is exactly what you have to do. This is the exact problem. This is exactly what you have to do to solve the problem, and only you can do it, and it needs to get done. Thank you very much. And then you say, okay, I'm the hero of the story. I'm the main character. I'm going to go take on this side quest. And a lot of these side quests end up being very similar. They follow, again, a certain criteria where it's like, go to from point A to point B, somebody's in trouble, kill the bad guys, save them, go back, collect your reward, just basic stuff like that. And there is variation for sure. But the thing about, talking about traditional quest design and traditional UI design, because that was another criticism. That was like a separate criticism from another developer where they're like, the UI, they don't do UI right. And look, I'm a believer that everybody isn't, obviously everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I'm also a believer that they're free to express their opinions. But my thing with this is, given their position, like, I'm not going to shit on Horizon's main quest designer. I'm not going to shit on Ubisoft devs. I'm not going to shit on any of these developers that are expressing this, because they don't have to like Elden Ring. They don't have to feel the same way about Elden Ring that a lot of other people do. They don't have to believe that Elden Ring is worth a 97 on Metacritic. They don't have to feel this way. However, I also feel that given their position, you are a developer that has worked on other AAA games that are not Elden Ring. You have to know that when you see a game like Elden Ring come out and it's being universally praised and it's sitting at a 97, and you're taking to a toxic place like Twitter to give your opinion that goes against the grain. It's not about people turn this into a right or wrong situation. And I don't think that there's anything right or wrong about anything that's being said here. It's just opinions. And it's just, people I think they're just blowing it way out of proportion. But you really just have to ask yourself, who is to blame here? Do we blame the developers for taking to Twitter and criticizing Elden Ring publicly? I will admit that when I read some of these tweets, I'm going to be honest. They do come off a little bit salty, the way that they're worded. These developers are not, what I mean to say is, they did not give like lengthy, in-depth explanations as to why they feel the way they do. They just kind of had like one word, like, oh, I think like let me see if I have it here. The Horizon lead designer, I think I have a picture of the, here we go. So Ahmed Salama, who I think they worked on Battlefield as well, believe it or not, for 2042, which is Again, like, I don't think maybe you're the best person who should be criticizing Elden Ring, considering the state that Battlefield 2042 is in. But again, they said the fact that Elden Ring scored a 97 on Metacritic is proof that reviewers don't give a flaming poop about the UX. My life is a lie. And this, see, that's an opinion. Okay, now he's stating it. He's just being straight up, like, he's saying, if you believe that Elden Ring is a 97 on Metacritic with the way the UI is designed, then there's something wrong with that. That is his opinion that he is bringing out here publicly in a very straightforward manner. Again, he's not really explaining it. He's just saying, apparently reviewers don't give a shit about good UI design. And this creates an image where this person who has developed UIs believes that their way of developing a UI is the right way. Or maybe not just their way, but the way that the gaming industry has done it. And to me, again, I'm not here to say that their opinion is right or wrong, but I do think that there is a major flaw in this line of thinking. And that flaw is, who are you, or who is anybody else for that matter, to decide what good UI design actually is? I think that if we had to make a decision, who gets to decide what good UI design is? The developers or the players of the game? Well, I'm going to say, as a player of games, that usually the players are the ones who, can decide whether a UI design is good or not. And I feel like if you look at most player feedback, not all, but most player feedback on Elden Ring, I've been playing it, and I've been playing Souls games for a while. I have no problem whatsoever with Elden Ring's UI design. Maybe that's just because I'm used to it, but it can be overwhelming. Like, well, if you're talking about like navigating the menus and crafting and all the, it can be overwhelming. Sorry, UX. Yeah, my bad. Not UI. UX. My bad. I get the two confused. I just feel like people are at this is essentially what the argument is. I don't want to sound like overly redundant here, but essentially what the argument boils down to is you have some people who are saying that Elden Ring and its UX is amazing because it doesn't follow the mold. It does the exact opposite. It respects the player's intelligence, and it expects the player to be able to figure things out and not have their hand held the entire time. And it doesn't give you the option to change that. To where in a lot of modern day open world games, such as Ubisoft games and a lot of Sony open world games, I mean, let's be honest, like, unless you actively choose to turn it off, which it's very important to note, and a lot of people were pointing this out with Ubisoft games as well as Sony games most of the time, they give you the option to essentially transform those games into what Elden Ring is, where there's very minimal anything. And it's very difficult. It's not difficult, but it creates a whole new challenge where your hand is not going to be held. You're going to have to explore organically, discover organically, and get lost, essentially, and try to figure it out yourself. We're not going to, you can turn that option on where you essentially can make the game harder for yourself and just kind of more organic in that way. Now, I think there is an argument to be made that, well, should all games have that option? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying all games absolutely should have that option. However, I'm saying there is no problem at all, I think, with having that option. But this is where I just can't really agree with these developers entirely, mainly because I feel like what they are criticizing, and we'll talk about the performance in a second, but the one developer who's criticizing performance, I think that they have the most valid argument. Like, I think that their argument holds the most weight for sure. But my whole thing with Elden Ring and its overall design and the fact that it doesn't hold your hand, and it is just it goes against the grain entirely of open world games. I think that that's what makes Elden Ring I don't know if I want to say better, but it makes it different. And that's the whole thing here, man. Like that's why I why are we complaining or criticizing something just for being different? That's what I don't like about this, is that Elden Ring comes out and they're like, you know what? We're just gonna do it our way and what we think is good. And it does, and we don't care about modern day open world design. We're just gonna do it the way that we think it makes sense for us and our, and our vision. And I know that they know, as well as everybody else knows, that not everybody's gonna like that. Not everybody's going to love that, and that's fine. That's fine. Just like not everybody loves Horizon, and not everybody likes the way Ubisoft open world games are made, or Sony open games. You don't have to love Elden Ring either. But that doesn't mean it can't be different, and it doesn't mean it shouldn't be different. Elden Ring should be allowed to be exactly what it is. And that's it. And that's it. But I also want to say to that all the people who are completely shitting on these developers, I think they need to chill out a little bit too, because it's like, guys, that's all you need to let them know. We don't need to sit here and say, hey, or make it seem like if you're somebody who enjoys an open world Ubisoft game or the traditional cookie cutter mold of an open world game, you're a shitty gamer. Like, that's the problem. See, that's where the problem arises with these types of conversations, is people take these positions of, I'm better than you, or I know better than you, or whatever. And it's like, nobody's better than anybody. Nothing's better than anything. They're just different. And it's fucking-K to be different. Like, they don't have to fucking be the same. Developers need to accept that they don't fucking have to be the same. And gamers need to accept that they don't fucking have to be the same. They can be different, and they can be what they are, and they can exist separately, and you can choose to enjoy either of them or not enjoy either of them fucking separately. That's the point. That is the point here, and so many people completely miss the point of this. But then again, that's what the internet does. But I will say, the one criticism here that does kind of make me think in a different way is, what about the performance? And I'm going to get to these super chats in 1 second, guys. What about the performance? Right? We have, let me see. I'll bring it up here. We have Rebecca Fernandez O'Shea. She is a developer at Nixus Software, which is owned by Sony, saying, that essentially, she says, nor PC graphics stability and performance, apparently. Basically, she's saying that apparently reviewers don't care about these things with Elden Ring. Like, Elden Ring gets a pass. And, I mean, I kind of agree with that a little bit. I do. I kind of agree that it's like, well, my experience with Elden Ring on PS5 has been pretty good. Like, I haven't had any serious performance issues, but you can notice things, for sure. Just like, some people are noticing some things with Horizon, and it just, if you go watch a lot of the reviews and listen to a lot of the reviews from professional reviewers or trusted reviewers, there's no doubt, and I can confirm this, we're talking, I see somebody saying most people are criticizing performance. Well, we are talking about reviewers here. And I think that's why there's such a disconnect with this conversation, because I think a lot of Soulsborne fans, Elden Ring fans, I think they feel attacked. You know what I mean? Where it's like, they're happy. This game got a 97. This is one of the greatest games of all time. But pretty much all of them are also shitting on Elden Ring's performance. And they are calling it out, and they are criticizing it. But that's not, and I think that they feel like they're not being acknowledged. They feel like the reviewers, the professional reviewers, they're the ones that are getting all the attention right now. But here, I'm gonna read these super chats in just a moment, but I'm gonna give you in my opinion, the view, the perspective that I think that both Elden Ring and Horizon, and hell, even Ubisoft, people who like Ubisoft open world games. Here we go. So now I'm going to be the passionate Elden Ring fan, the passionate From Software fan. All right? Yo, Elden Ring, 97 on Metacritic. This is incredible. I'm playing it myself. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. This is one of the most incredible games I ever played in my life. From Software did it again. They raised the bar. This is going to change in some ways how open world games are developed. And I love this game. But holy shit, From Software, why is the performance so garbage? Please fix your shit. Okay, there we go. That's the passionate Souls fan. Right there. That's the passionate Elden Ring fan. Here's the passionate Horizon Forbidden West fan, the passionate Sony fan. Yo, Horizon Forbidden West is amazing. This game should be higher than an 88 on Metacritic. It should at the very least be a 90. It should be a 9 out of 10 because this game is awesome. To me, this game is a 10 out of 10. It improves upon the first game in every single way. There are a couple, minor issues here and there, but it's all good. It's all good because my overall experience with this game is everything I hoped for, and they're immediately ironing out these issues, and I love it. And I think that maybe it deserves a little bit more credit, maybe just a little bit, not a whole lot. Nobody's saying it needs to be a 100 on Metacritic, but just a little bit. But it does, it did come in just a little bit hot. There you go. There's the passionate Horizon fan. You see? And then you got the passionate Ubisoft fan. Where they're like, yo, I love Ubisoft open world games. I love that UI clutter. I love all that. I love having all these different icons and things to do. I love that type of experience. And you see where the problem lies here. The reason why I'm acting this out and I'm showing you three different perspectives is because what's worth pointing out about these three different perspectives is all three fucking people are enjoying their goddamn games and don't give, they're just acknowledging that, yes, there are reviewers, there are reviews, but we are just going to enjoy our games. And we're going to call the problems out as we see them. You're saying, okay, you went too far with the Ubisoft. I mean, I don't play many Ubisoft games, and maybe my depiction of a passionate Ubisoft fan was a little bit inaccurate. I don't know, but it comes down to something very simple. Who cares if Elden Ring is sitting at a 97? As a video game player, I don't give a shit. I mean, I will acknowledge it when I see it, like, whoa, that's not common. Good for you. But all I care about as a video game player is I want to enjoy this game. I want to play it. And I don't expect it to be perfect. Like, that's the point. I don't expect any game I play to be perfect or to be completely flawless. Elden Ring is not perfect to me. Elden Ring is not flawless to me. But Elden Ring, based off of what I've played so far, is a fucking incredible game. And you know what I don't need to do for any of the games that I play? And this is going to be the bomb that I set off right now, okay? Even though it's not really a bomb. Like it's not that big of a deal. People have said this many times. I'm just reiterating it. The greatest thing that I have discovered while looking at these conversations and seeing this discourse and hearing everybody's opinion because it's all this and it's all that. You know what I realized? Numbers don't mean fucking shit to me when I am playing a video game. Isn't that fucking mind-blowing? Numbers don't mean shit to me when I am engaging in video games. The act of playing a video game. Holy shit. How we're discovering this. We're discovering this. We've unlocked the secret, everyone. We've unlocked the secret. Miyazaki made Elden Ring with the player experience in mind. He said, I have an idea for a video game. This is what I want my video game to be. And this is how I want the player to experience my video game. And then the player buys that video game. They put the video game, or they download the video game, they put it in their console, they play it on their PC, and they experience that video game. And then they determine, wow, I either really like this, I either think this is okay, or I don't like it. And again, in that process, that exact same process applies to Horizon Forbidden West. It applies to any Ubisoft game, any video game whatsoever. And what you learn is that numbers don't really mean shit. They just don't. And True Witty, just to be clear, I'm talking about review score numbers. I probably should have made that clear. Frame rate numbers certainly can have a tangible impact on the player experience. I want to make that clear. And that's why I feel like all of this discourse is just, frankly, it's not all of it is foolish, but people hang on to the wrong things. People like Elden Ring will speak for itself. Elden Ring's success will speak for itself. I don't need to go to any developer and say, yo, bro, what you're saying about Elden Ring is straight up wrong. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Miyazaki made it clear. From Software made it clear. They're going to make the fucking games that they want to make, period, end of discussion. They don't give a flying fuck what anybody, any other developer, any critic, any fan, they don't care. They just want to make the games that they want to make because they're passionate about the games they make, just like every other developer. At least you would assume every other developer. And that's all it comes down to, man. Horizon is the game it is because that's the game that they wanted to make. It doesn't have to be anything else than what it is. And that I feel like at this point I've reached an impasse where it's like I don't know how much further I could go with this. So I'm going to read some of these super chats. Let me see. Okay, so we got Pragmatic Cat once again. You're saying, may the nicotine in the occasional M.6S-esque cigar be your guiding light. This one's for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pragmatic Cat. Pragmatic Cat, excuse me. Aaron Yogurt, you're saying Pastor MBG needs to become a thing. Matt York, member for 2 months, greatness awaits. Thank you, buddy. You're saying you're right. The devs do sound salty. There's valid criticisms with visual fidelity and performance, but the interface is fine. It's Souls. It works. Yeah, I mean, like that. I just want to say, Matt York, that's the thing is like the biggest thing I've seen from the Souls community and the Elden Ring community is a lot like they're all coming out here and they're like, guys, we have been criticizing Elden Ring for its performance. And it's like the biggest criticism as of right now that is being, pushed in From Software's direction. And the, fans just want to, like, basically what Souls fans, and I think Horizon fans can relate to this. And I guess this is where, some of the discourse comes in, but Horizon fans can relate to this, where what they are trying to convey is that, look, it has some performance issues, and it has some, valid problems, like real problems with the engine and the performance that are real and they need to be fixed. But it doesn't mean that the game is any less amazing to them. And you have these people on the other side that are like, no, the game has to be less amazing because of these issues. And it's like, does it though? Like, does it? I feel like that's not an objective thing, I don't think. I just don't think it is. Like, if somebody experienced okay, here's food for thought. A lot of you, I'm assuming right now, are big fans of Horizon Forbidden West. And a lot of PlayStation fans have made it clear that they think Horizon got maybe some lower review scores because of performance issues, right? And they feel like maybe that's not fair. Like it should have gotten maybe some higher review scores. Again, if you're caring about numbers at all, because people are going to care no matter what I say. I feel like, what about the people who gave, what about the reviewers, right? Reviewers who gave Horizon a 10 out of 10, even with some of those issues. To those people who gave Horizon a 10 out of 10, or like a 9.5 out of 10 or whatever, or 9 out of 10, they said, look, this game had a couple issues, but that they don't matter in the grand scheme of this game, because the game is just that amazing to me. They didn't really bother me that much. And this is just where it's like, well, hold on. Sorry. This is just where I feel like people, there's no winning. I don't know what other conclusion to come to. There's no winning. I mean, we could argue all day that, Horizon got criticized too much for some of its performance issues, and it had its review scores lowered in some cases because of it, and it maybe should have been a 90 at the very least. We could argue that all day. We could argue all day that, Elden Ring shouldn't be at a 97 on Metacritic, and reviewers should have been a little bit more harsh on it because of its performance issues. But it does, like, does that change anything? It just doesn't, man. And that's why I'm saying, like, people have to stop fucking caring about video game reviews of like any kind, really. Like, I mean, by that I mean any kind that have numbers attached to them. You need to stop caring about it, because these numbers will never properly represent a video game. And I feel like if that is the most, I don't know, that's the best point I can make. That's the best point I can make. Is these review score numbers will never truly properly represent any video game. They're too objective, they're too flawed, they're too robotic, they're too rigid. You cannot get everything you need to know about a game just by looking at a number. You cannot. Whether it's a high number, a medium number, or a low number. And that's why I'll always just be against, I think at this point, review scores and review numbers, because it's just, and I know what people are going to say. They're going to be like, dude, aren't you the guy who talks about Metacritic scores and you've made videos on it? Yes. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I haven't. But that's the thing. This is where, as a gamer, as a person, I'm growing and I'm beginning to realize that these numbers mean literally nothing, man. If Sony puts out God of War Ragnarok, and God of War Ragnarok sits at a 98 on Metacritic, a 98, I could come out here and be like, holy shit, guys, yeah, Sony did it. Sony Santa Monica, 98 on Metacritic. This is mind-blowing. This is crazy. But it doesn't mean anything, ultimately. Because there's always going to be people who play a game that has a 97 or a 98 on Metacritic, and they're going to walk away and be like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much. Or I didn't think it was that great. And so what do numbers mean at that point? What do numbers mean at that point? I don't know. I just, how this goes. You're saying a 98 would push people to purchase the game? Well, the truth is the numbers are always going to be here, whether we want them to or not. And there's not much we can really do about it. Mitul Patel, thank you, buddy, for the $50 donation. You guys are awesome. Seriously, thank you. You're saying favorite soundtrack in a video game. Happy 100th. That's a really good question, dude. Well, I feel like I'm not going to say these are my favorite soundtracks, because I feel like this is an absolute cop-out. But it's the first one that comes to mind, just because these games are so known for it. I'm going to say like a lot of GTA, Vice City, San Andreas, those two, because I was much younger when I played them, they introduced me to a lot of music. But I have to say, again, I feel like this sounds like a cop-out too, but the Metal Gear Solid 2 theme Like the song, I don't know the name of the song. I feel like I should know the name of the song, but the song that plays at the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 2, like when the intro, I would like to maybe I'll look up the number or the name of the song, but that is like, like do 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 do, like that's just so ingrained in my brain. Like that Metal Gear theme is just there in my brain. Outside of that, I mean, I see somebody in the chat mentioning uh Guardians of the Galaxy. And yeah, I mean, I know we're talking about soundtracks that are not so much original, but soundtracks that are taking songs and essentially creating playlists. Original soundtracks, I know there are. I mean, I feel like I was pretty enticed by and impressed by the Last of Us theme. The Last of Us really had that kind of it's kind of, it has that perfect theme for what it is, I see somebody mentioning Red Dead 2. Call of Duty, I mean, you know what? I will say for a lot of classic Call of Duty games, that I actually do have, like, sing it, MVG, I'm not singing it. Silent Hill, yeah, true. A lot of classic Call of Duty games, like just kind of sitting at the lobbies and the main menus or the multiplayer menus, for sure. Yeah, so that's a good question, man. That's a good question. I see a lot of people mentioning the Persona games. I haven't played any, so... But yeah, there's a lot of amazing soundtracks. A lot. Many that I'm not mentioning right now, unfortunately, just because I can't think of them off the top of my head. The old Tony Hawk games. Yeah, true. Metal Gear Solid 4 Old Snakes theme. Definitely. Yeah. For sure. All right, so we have Blue Streak 320 saying clearly these developers don't know why Elden Ring is special, and they will take all of the wrong things from it when they attempt to copy it later. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. So earlier I said, what is the bigger implication here? Because this amount of discourse implies that there's a bigger implication. What is it? Well, I don't know that I can perfectly identify it, but maybe there are a few. Blue Streak, I think you may have acknowledged one of these bigger implications, that being that, well, if these are developers who work on open world games, that we get today, if they cannot identify what makes Elden Ring so good and different and unique, maybe that is a problem in the bigger picture, because maybe we do, I think gamers do want to see some of these things extracted from what Elden Ring achieved in their open world game, and maybe apply it to other open world games. And I do agree that, like, yeah, it would be really cool to see like another AAA game that just decides, you know what, we're gonna do something very different and maybe not as handholdy, but we're not going to give you a choice, and that's the unique part about this. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I think people talk about Elden Ring like it's doing all these insanely unique things. And I'm not talking shit on Elden Ring, and I really hope nobody perceives it this way, because to me, Elden Ring is so far, yeah, it's an amazing, incredible experience. And I have to emphasize that FromSoft games are some of my favorite games of all time. I think that the only thing that Elden Ring does differently than not all open world games, but, well, I don't want to whittle it down too much. There are a few things it does differently, but the biggest thing here that it's doing, that is catching people by surprise, that players are like, oh, well, that's not common at all, that's different, is they're not giving you a choice. And I feel like that's really the heart. That is at the heart and at the center of this discourse and this conversation is, and I kind of referenced this earlier, where, it's if you want to talk about, say, I see somebody saying, thank you, MBG, people acting like Elden Ring is breaking all this new ground and the most innovative of all time. There's something really important about this conversation we have to acknowledge. And this, to me, as a Souls player, this is the most obvious. Okay, there are seemingly millions of people who either never played Dark Souls, never played Demon Souls, never played Bloodborne. They never played any of these older Souls games or these FromSoft titles, or maybe they just never got deep into them at all. And what they are experiencing is, because I'm telling you now, I've been playing Elden Ring. I think I'm like 30, 35 hours into it. And it is like, dude, it is taking everything that From Software already did and just putting it into an open world. And that's what makes it special to a lot of people and unique, because there are people who are experiencing this for the first time where they're like, oh my God, like I've never played anything like this. Go play Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and you will realize, holy shit, this is so similar to Elden Ring, like in so many ways. It's just not open world. But that's the thing, is that so many Souls fans are saying the reason why this is so much better than the Dark Souls games, and why they like it better maybe than the Dark Souls games, is because this is the natural evolution of From Software already. They already had the formula created. It's the formula for Elden Ring was created back in 2009 with Demon Souls. That was the formula. And since the creation of Demon Souls, it has just been iterated and refined and improved and expanded. And I think the biggest departure is maybe with Sekiro, for sure. That was definitely different. But when you look at Elden Ring, it's just a natural progression. And of course, if you take a winning formula, like what you have with Demon Souls and Dark Souls, and you inject that into an open world, but on top of that, you do not follow any of the normal open world tropes, and you just do your own thing, of course you're going to do something special. Of course you are. Because who has ever made an open world Souls game? That's the question I want to ask anybody. Who has made an open world Souls game? Because I can't think of anybody who's ever made an open world Souls-like game. No one. And I think the reason why, Bug Snacks, I think the reason why there was never an open world Souls game made, like a really, like, this is Souls-like this is really a Souls game. You're saying Dragon's Dogma, technically? I'm not familiar. I mean, I haven't played it. That's interesting to me, though, if that's true. That's very interesting. I mean, it's just, of course, From Software is going to have to be the one to take the formula that they created, to take the genre that they created, and then make it open world, and that's going to be the one. That's going to be the one where it's like, holy shit, this is what it can be? Yes, this is what it can be. But I don't like, I will agree, like, I don't like when people make it sound like, I mean, come on, I get it. Like, I've been hyperbolic in the past, and I probably will be hyperbolic. And I love the enthusiasm. I do. Trust me. I'm the hype guy a lot of times. I love the enthusiasm coming from the Souls community, man, and the Elden Ring community, where they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, dude, they're on cloud 9 right now, and that's great. Saying Code Vein. Yeah, I don't know if I'd count that. Did they do it well though? That's the question. Somebody saying Dragon's Dogma is nothing like Souls. Okay. I just don't want people to confuse the fact that a lot of what you're hearing, you're saying I bought Demon Souls from Play Asia. What we have now is a different universe. It is a different universe for sure. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of what you're hearing are first time, like, FromSoft players. Like, they're finally experiencing the true Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne formula, but they're experiencing it in its best possible form in this open world, or what many would believe to be this is the best possible form. And that's why I think, I remember Miyazaki said, and I'm going to move on to the next topic shortly. I just have a lot to say about this. I remember Miyazaki said not too long before Elden Ring came out is he's hoping that more people, and it's the desire of any creative that more people will be able to experience Elden Ring than their previous games, and they absolutely succeeded in doing this. Because more people, that's one of the biggest things I've seen about Elden Ring since it launched, is how many people are like, it's so crazy to see how many people who have never played Dark Souls games or were never into Dark Souls games or were intimidated by these games, now they're giving Elden Ring a shot. And it's like, yeah, this is, again, the natural progression. It is the natural progression. It would be just like if, here we go. When God of War goes open world, you're going to see it happen again. You're going to try. I'm not saying it's going to, but just take this for take this for spinning your head for a second. Ragnarok is the conclusion of this Norse mythology. Okay, now I remember people were saying, what if they do like Japanese mythology, or what if they go to Egypt, right? Like with God of War, whatever it'll be called next. Okay, yeah. And then what if they make it open world? Somebody says, no, God of War doesn't need to be open world. Whoa. Don't confuse my words here. I am not saying God of War needs to be open world. I agree it doesn't need to be. But imagine that they do make it open world. Imagine that they do make it open world and they knock it out of the park, just like we're seeing here. Like they take the formula that makes God of War what it is. But I don't know though. I don't know that God of War could work as well because it's a very story-driven, character-driven experience. To whereas that's the one, the reason why the Dark Souls games fit so naturally and comfortably into an open world is because it's not that. The story is very much figure it out, learn it. Your character's silent. So it is quite the opposite. But I'm just saying you could see a similar situation. I mean, I don't, again, I agree. Like, I don't, dude, I have to, we're talking about open worlds here so much. I got to get to these super chats. I just wanted to say, am I the only one who feels like, God damn, I am just, please stop. And this is not a shot at Elden Ring or Horizon, but please, God, less open world games. Please, God, more linear games. My brain, man, my mind, my brain, I can't keep up with this. These worlds are getting bigger. They're getting more open. They're getting more. And I'm like, I can't. It's overwhelming. Please, more linear games. Please. and that's my biggest problem with Elden Ring, believe it, ironically enough, is I actually, when I'm done playing Elden Ring, most of the time, it's because like I entered a new area and I'm like looking around and I'm like, you know what? I got my fill today. I'm going to take a break. I can't. I'm tapped out right now. I need to give my mind a rest here. All right. Siler 18, a member for 22 months, play as No Limits Plus. You're saying for Elden Ring, it is annoying not knowing where a quest is due to the massive open world, and I have the memory of a goldfish. No, I feel you there, man. Didn't bother me in the previous games. Also, Ubisoft has no business criticizing UI in open world. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not trying to come off as like, I'm not a fan of a lot of Ubisoft games, and I admit, man, like when you look at a lot of open world Ubisoft games, their UI clutter, it's like, what the fuck are you even doing? Like this is absolutely ridiculous, But I see, that's the thing is like, I think the biggest argument you could make towards Elden Ring is if you gave people the option, like if they did do traditional quest logs and stuff, and they design that into the game, but you could just turn it off, or maybe it starts with it turned off and you can turn it on. This is where I feel like people need to chill out, okay? I feel like there's a lot of people on the internet that if I were to say, or if you were to say, I think Elden Ring would have benefited if they designed the game with a quest log, that when you start the game, there is no quest log because it's turned off automatically. But if you go into the settings at some point, or maybe they'll let you know in the game if you want a quest log, you can toggle it on. There are a lot of people, I think, on the internet that will jump down your throat and be like, "You shut the F up right now, buddy. You don't know what you're talking about. That is blasphemy. Shut it." That would ruin the game. And I all I can ask is this: how would that ruin the game for you? That's the only question I need to know. How would that ruin the game for you? I need an answer to that question. I need an answer. Because I'm telling you right now, this is the argument. This is why people are fighting. For them, the fact that it's an option is enough. Saying, tell that to all the people mad about it. Like, here's my thing. My problem is not with the developer. Because you're mentioning Sifu, people getting upset because they mentioned they're going to add difficulty options. I have no problem with a developer who says no. That's all I'm saying. Somebody says more dev time. That's true. I'm just simply saying that, like, if I were to have a conversation with Miyazaki, which I never will, but if I could, and I were to say that, I'd be like, "Hey, Mr. Miyazaki-san, how come with Elden Ring?" Sorry, I hit my mic. How come with Elden Ring? What if you? And I would just like mention to him, be like, "What if you did offer design or quest, like quest markers, and just you designed it in there where you can follow, like you'll lead the player, you'll let them know. Why don't you design that in that, but give people the option to turn it off?" And if he just turned to me and said, that's not the game I want to make, I don't want that to be an option, I'd be like, okay, I respect that. That is fine. That's cool. Like, you know what you want and you know what you don't want to do. That's cool. My problem is with the people who want to argue why it shouldn't ever be a thing. Because what if the day comes, what if in Elden Ring 2, I'm just saying, Miyazaki would be like, 97, shut the fuck up. He'd slap me. He'd be like, "Don't you dare disrespect my game like that." Artistic integrity. And that's where I feel like the conversation gets so muddy, because I feel like people are attempting to defend what you would call artistic integrity in a really dickheadish way, where it's like, I'm pretty sure Miyazaki would not shit on somebody and be like, "What are you, stupid? What, you can't play my game? What do you, suck?" He even said he's apologetic for those who struggle with the games. He even struggles with the games. But it's like you said, it's his artistic vision. And I feel like all you really got to do, if you want to defend an artist's vision, is you don't have to shit on other people. Just basically say, look, that's their choice. And they're happy with their choice. That's what they chose. And it's okay. And I'm okay with it too. That's it. But I just don't like people who get all asshole-like, because it's like, and they become all, I don't know, pompous. Yeah, like the get good, like, it's funny. I get, it is kind of funny, like, yeah, you literally do have to get good. That's, you have no choice. Yes. And there's something to be said for that. But I just don't understand why people get so worked up about it. Where it's like, if it would be like, let's say Elden Ring 2, man. Elden Ring, there ain't gonna be no. I don't know if there would be an Elden Ring 2. I don't even know what you would do. But the next game from FromSoft, what if it does have difficulty options? What if it does have traditional UI design that you can turn off? I'm just saying, like, how are people gonna react then? What are they gonna hate Miyazaki? What are they gonna hate FromSoft all of a sudden? No, they're gonna be like, oh well, that's what they chose to do, and it's cool. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. I think people just want to find things to argue over, to be honest. You're saying go play another game. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I'm cool with that too. If I were to play a game where it's like I literally cannot do this, like I cannot do this, yeah, I would just put it down and find another game. The game's just not for me. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what FromSoft does next. I just think that people get too they get too passionate, I guess you could say, about it, to where it's like, and I get it. Sometimes passion overrules logic at times, and you may not realize it. That's all. All right, Tom R, you're saying Deathloop fake reviews now used to give Microsoft Publisher of the Year on Metacritic. Knew there was something up with that. Oh, we're going to talk about that next, bro. We're going to talk about that next. So you hear the bro start coming out. Now I'm starting to say bro again. You know what's coming. Ex Cathedra, you're saying congrats on episode 100. Shocked at how much Elden Ring reuses enemies, animation, sounds when it's supposed to be a new IP, and it's gotten a pass. The open world is cool, but feels unnecessary. I mean, look, I know what you're talking about, because that's true. Like, dude, anybody who says Elden Ring isn't open world Dark Souls is just wrong. They're just wrong. I say this as somebody who has played the entirety, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and I've done almost everything in those games you could do. This is open world Dark Souls. And that's why it's amazing. I'm telling you, that's why it's amazing. Because yes, it reuses the formula that made the Souls games awesome. And it takes that and it changes the lore and it changes the universe and it dumps it in an open world. And that is what is making it feel so fresh. And I'm so happy about this. I love that. Like, I remember a long time ago, there were people criticizing Elden Ring because they're like, this just looks like open world Dark Souls. And I'm like, hell yeah, it does. I'm like, fuck yeah, it does. That's amazing. Like, it should. That's exactly what I hoped it would be. Exactly. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. And this is why From Software, they are geniuses. They are geniuses because they knew we don't have to reinvent our wheel here at all. We just gotta make it. We just got to change aspects of it. We just got to refine it. We just got to put it on a different vehicle. You know what I mean? Like, or something, whatever analogy you want to use. And that's where FromSoft, that's why they're achieving the success they are. Because while some people, you know, Ex Cathedra, you're saying you're shocked at like how much it reuses enemies, animations, sounds. Yeah, dude, there are so many things in this game that are recycled. Just straight up recycled from Souls games. And I know it sounds crazy to some people, but I'm happy for it. I'm happy for it, you know? But there's a bunch of new stuff as well, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I feel like sometimes people, they call me like a FromSoft fanboy or something, but I don't know that I am. It's just I just genuinely love their games, and I think that there's just so, it's like what I often say about a lot of PlayStation games where people think that because I'm not focusing on the negative, because I'm not focusing, you're saying you are MVG, LOL, and it's okay. Well, I guess you could say I'm a FromSoft fanboy and I'm a Sony fanboy, I guess, because people think that just because I'm not hyper focusing or fixating on the negatives, it means that I just, you know, I just don't care, or it means nothing. It's not that. It's just that the good greatly outweighs the bad to the point where I don't even feel like I want to even focus on the bad because it doesn't matter to me. You know, it just kind of rolls off my shoulders. I guess in a way that does make me a fanboy. I don't know. You're saying literally 2 enemies are reused from the previous titles. Well, I wasn't the one who said that. I was reading a super chat. I think that there are a lot of things within Elden Ring that are definitely like, yeah, I remember that, like, experiencing this exact same thing in Dark Souls. You're saying that's not an unbiased opinion. Well, that's the thing, is I'm not claiming to have an unbiased opinion. I think my bias is obvious. Just look behind me. You know, like, I'm not claiming that I don't have a bias. I'm just trying to, I will tell you when it's like, okay, now I'm going to try to see things from the perspective from somebody else who doesn't have a bias, I guess, if that makes sense. Because, you know, I'm my own person and I have my own biases. Everybody does. But sometimes it takes a literal effort to get to a point where it's like, now I'm not thinking about any of my preferences, any of my biases. I just want to try to see things as objectively as I can. But let me see here. We have, thank you for that, by the way. Berto, Game Tight, you're saying if Elden Ring was a Sony exclusive, would it get a 97? I don't think so, because there's hate going around for Sony games. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I feel like that's an impossible question to answer, and there's no way for us to have an actual answer to that question. You know, like, I want to say, yeah, it would, but I don't know. I don't know. You're saying it surely. Well, my question is I mean, why? I see a lot of people in the chat saying it definitely wouldn't, but why? You know, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why it wouldn't. Is it because there's like a higher stand? Like, you're, I guess, saying that if Elden Ring was a Sony exclusive, reviewers would be harsher on it, because Stevivor would ensure Stevivor would ensure that it wouldn't get a 97. There you go. There's our answer. That's why it wouldn't get a 97. But I mean, I don't know. Is it because reviewers are harder on Sony games because they expect a higher, is this where like Sony's own bar of quality when it comes to performance and refinement? It's like, hey, we expected, Elden Ring to not have any issues with performance mode, to not have these pop-in issues or these bugs. And because we expected it not to when it does, well, it's not going to review as well. I don't know. I mean, like, come on, guys. Like, this is where I feel like when we dive, like, the deeper we dive into this conversation about reviews and opinions, objectivity versus subjectivity, I feel like it becomes pretty clear that human beings inherently cannot be purely objective. We just can't be. We just can't. Like, it's impossible, because it's like, if I were to say, oh, it's obvious that in the gaming industry and in any other industry, but we're talking about the gaming industry, certain brands, certain developers, certain IP, they get a pass. They get a pass, or they get extra points. Why? Because of what they are, because of the brand, because of who they are, because of what they do. That is real. Like, that exists 100%. That exists for Sony, that exists for Nintendo. In some cases, that exists for Microsoft, that exists for developers. That exists. And there's a reason why that exists. And there's a reason, more importantly, why it's allowed to exist. You understand? Like, it's not going away. It's like, why do you think when a game like The Last of Us Part 2 comes out, the one reviewer that's like, yeah, I don't think it was a 10 out of 10, but I think it was an 8 out of 10, they get demolished, bro. Like, they're gone. They're done. It's because it's Naughty Dog. That's why. The Last of Us, Part 2 is a sequel to a game that the expectation, you know what I mean? It's just, it's there, man. It's there. It's why, a lot of people, I see 47 says Halo Infinite is an 80 on Metacritic Max, and yet it is rated the same as Horizon Forbidden West. Dude, it's because it's Halo. It's Halo. It's going to get at least just a couple points more, regardless of what it should be. See, that's where the conversation gets fucked up, because it's like, how do you know, or how do I know what it should be? I don't know. Because you could say the same thing about Horizon. I don't know, man. These conversations get difficult, and I start to feel like I'm like tangling myself up in knots because there is no answer other than the answer we give ourselves. It literally begins to get philosophical, and you guys know philosophical MBG, he can get pretty deep sometimes. You're saying MBG, trying to say Halo is just getting points for Halo is bullshit. Saying that is saying Horizon Forbidden West got an extra points because it's really like an 82. Such a dumb take. Dude, I just said that. Well, I don't know. Maybe Randy, maybe you typed that before you heard me. But that's what I'm trying to say, man, is that logic can be applied to any game. And it becomes impossible to know. Like, what is it really? In this quest to objectively define things, we cannot do it. We cannot do it. My brain gets broken. Because even if you want to say, well, if you take one of the most well-respected reviewers in the industry and they don't use number scores, so you can't just go based off a number. They don't use any dumbed down, like, maybe you should buy it, maybe you shouldn't, pass on it, here's the score, whatever. It, like, the only way you can know, here's my question. Okay, I see somebody saying there's no objectivity with scores. Here's my question. Can there be objectivity in video game reviews that don't use scores, but just not, and they don't use recommendations, they just use their words to explain their experience? There's no recommendation. There's no, is it good? Is it bad? There's just, this is the experience. And I feel like the answer to that is also no. I'm not saying it's definitively no, but I'm just saying it feels like I guess it just comes down to likeness, really. Because there are, I've had people in like real life recommend things to me, and they're like, dude, you got to play this or you got to try this. And I like take their word for it because their experience with it was awesome. And they're like, yo, I loved it. It was great. They're not giving me a review like, hey, it's a 9 out of 10, and they're not giving me a whole essay to read like, here's what I wrote about this thing. They're just like, yo, go watch this or go play this. And I do, and I'm like, I didn't like that. That wasn't very good to me. You see what I'm saying? I see somebody saying criticism is obsolete. That's it. That's an interesting thing to say. Because it's almost like maybe there's truth to that, man. Because the good things, bad. It's like I said. I said it the other day. Or a week or two ago, where I'm like, people are ripping Babylon's Fall to shreds. People are ripping Crossfire X to shreds. But there are people playing those games and loving those games. You see what I mean? And it's like, what does that mean? That has to mean something. And somebody would say it just means they have terrible taste. It's a never-ending cycle. I gotta end this conversation because I can't come to a definitive answer. I can't. Someone loves Babylon's Fall. You better believe there is somebody who loves it. Somebody. Maybe a few people. They exist. Richard, you're saying Sony devs need to relax before we lose from exclusive, I guess you meant to say. It's not about the pursuit of truth anymore. It's more like business. I don't know, man. I tell you, we could get real deep on this podcast. What even is truth? And answer that. I mean, is there an answer to that? Or is it just the answer that we create for ourselves? See, I can't do this. I start talking about review scores, I'm talking about public discourse, and then suddenly I'm sucked into some kind of vortex of deep thought where it's like, oh shit, what is the meaning of anything? Is anything even real? Dude, I know that sounds funny, but dude, I legit, at this point in my life, I have quite a few existential crises. I don't know, like basically asking those questions, and I don't have the answers. And I know that that's just life, but holy shit, man. Uh MVG is slowly diving into the metaverse. Yeah, don't get me started there, dude. Danny Sullivan coming in and saving the day. Just, dude, bringing everything back. Danny Sullivan, just play what you like. I love it. I love it. And then there is confabulation. Confabulation equals 60% of people never had some of the memories they think they had. What? Is that real? I'm gonna have to look that up. Confabulation. I never heard of that. That is bizarre. Crazy, dude. Crazy. All right. I'm gonna try my best to reel it back in. All right. KD, you're saying it's hypocritical to call open world games cookie cutter when every Souls game is the same game with refreshed lore and bosses, plus a couple new gimmicks. Well, I mean, oh, you're saying Google the Mandela effect? Yeah, I know what that is. Well, KD, I mean, isn't that just it though? You know, like, isn't that just it? When are people not hypocritical? When are human endeavors not overtly hypocritical? At some point. You know, that's the thing, man. Is like that's why people were asking me, dude, why didn't you make a video? Why didn't you make a video on this? You know, when it was happening earlier this week, and how come you weren't part of that conversation? And it's honestly, it's because, dude, I'm getting tired, man. I'm getting tired. Like I'm getting tired of the fighting and the bullshit back and forth and the, well, I'm right and you're wrong and what, like, it doesn't fucking matter, man. Like, I'm being real right now. You know, like, this is how I'm starting to see a lot of shit in life where it's like, holy hell, I don't have the energy. I don't have the will to fight people over shit that just, I mean, I want to say doesn't matter, but I feel like all I can say is to me doesn't matter. And most things, not to sound like a doomer here, but most things don't really matter that much. You know, I mean, there are definitely things in life that are important and I think are worth caring about for sure. But I just like that's like but I at the same time I feel like I don't want to be the guy to just come out here on Twitter and make a video and be like, can't we just love both guys? You know, like, can't we just love Elden Ring and Horizon? Because I feel like nobody wants to fucking hear that guy. And it's true. It's true. Those people get drowned out and they say, you know what? I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to go over here in my corner and I'm going to play both of these games and I'm going to fucking enjoy them. And I'm not going to have a goddamn thing to say about it to anybody because it doesn't matter. I love them. You know? Saying everything's a small part of something bigger. You're right. I think you're right about that. I think that is a good way of looking at it. And maybe that's where I think that's why I get so flustered with a lot of this stuff, because in a way it kind of is, you know, in a way, everything that people argue about, it's like it kind of stems from, it seems like it's insignificant, but it does stem from something bigger and then something more significant and then something above that. And it's like when you whittle down, what are people really arguing about right now? You know? I don't know. Dude, I'm telling you, man, we are just a few moments away from this podcast taking a turn into just complete philosophical, like, deep, contemplative, what is the meaning of life? And it was supposed to be about Elden Ring and Horizon. But V2 saying PlayStation fans are eating good. Yeah, I don't know. MBG, why did you start selling NFTs? Nah, I'm not selling NFTs. Endless discussions about nothing. All right. So, okay, Kapapa, you're saying what bugs me is that Sony games have a glass ceiling 90 on Metacritic. Horizon and GT7 are the best in their genres. Yeah, I saw people making jokes that, like, we already know what score God of War Ragnarok is going to get. It's going to be sitting at a 88 on Metacritic, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty funny how uh there's Ratchet and Clank. I know Ratchet and Clank got an 88. We see Horizon at an 88. We got GT7 at an 88. But, Demon Souls did get a 92. And I think I know it was a lower score, but I think Returnal got like an 86. I don't know that there's a glass ceiling, man. I just think it just doesn't fucking matter. Like, I can't. I just can't anymore, Like, I don't want to sell it. I don't want to celebrate review scores anymore. And I also don't want to shit on review scores anymore because I just don't think they matter, man. I don't. Like, they are completely MBG selling NFTs. I'm not selling NFTs. Why do people think I'm selling NFTs? I'm not. I'm not selling them. I don't like NFTs. It's. I don't want to, like, I kind of feel like you're saying you could celebrate if Sony got a 97, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm in a position where it's like, oh, dude, this Sony game got a 93. You definitely got to celebrate it. Like, it's expected, but I don't want to because it doesn't matter to me. It just doesn't. 2 weeks later, MBG clown NFT for sale. I congratulated From Software on Twitter for getting a 97, and it was just an impulsive reaction because it was surprising to see that, but I don't know, man. True Witty, you're saying, what about numbers and frames, MBG? Yeah, they matter. True Witty, again, you're saying FromSoft needs help, can't even run on a 380 with FPS. That's why I'm saying, like, if From Software could join forces with Sony, they could probably do some really great things on a technical side, or specifically Bluepoint. The Caped Crusader, you're saying, I think the problem a lot of people have with Elden Ring's score is that if you look at it unbiasedly, it looks empty AF and outdated. Not a 96, sorry. Well, the truth is, the Caped Crusader, you're definitely not the only one who feels that way. Like, not everybody loves Elden Ring, So it's, it's your opinion, man. You're completely entitled to that feeling you have about Elden Ring, what you just typed. Always busy, you're saying, MBG, it has nothing to do with fans, it's reviews that hurt or help game sales. If another dev put this out, they would be held to the flame for average graphics, poor performance, and bad quest design. That is an interesting argument to be made, man. You do have to wonder. I don't know. You do have to wonder, what if this game wasn't called Elden Ring, and it wasn't made by FromSoft, and it was a brand new developer called, I don't know, something else? Would it get a 97? I think that's a fair question to ask. And I feel like it's a fair question to ask, but there's no way to know the answer to it. We're just making assumptions based off of things that we have seen happen in the past. But and I think that's fair too. Saying they would be burned if it was a new dev. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to know. Somebody says gameplay is amazing. That's the thing, is like, there are new games that come out that a lot of people. There are a lot of people, I think, who have experienced that, where a new game comes out and it's like, it doesn't run the best. It may not even look the best, but the gameplay, there's like, wow, there's something really here. There's something really here with this gameplay. And it kind of the gameplay carries the game. I don't know, man. Sheik says Horizon Forbidden West will be remembered for the game whose release was before Elden Ring and Zelda Breath of the Wild, sadly. Congrats on the 100 MAG. Much love. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that's the one thing I failed to mention with this topic as well. Like, the idea that like a Horizon Forbidden West developer seems a little bit salty about the overwhelming success of Elden Ring. There's no doubt in my mind that, some developers over at Guerrilla, and I'm not speaking for any developers, I'm just saying I would assume that some developers over at Guerrilla are probably feeling kind of annoyed and bothered and maybe even pissed off a little bit about, and salty and jealous about this, because if you put yourself in their shoes, yeah, like you're probably thinking like, this is it, this is our magnum opus, we did it, and then like, but at the same time, like, come on. All the developers at Guerrilla and everybody in the gaming industry, and especially all those who played Horizon, we can all say, guys, you did a good job. You did a great job. Like it's just bad timing, and it's not your fault. Like it's true that Horizon got overshadowed at this point. The further we get away from it, the more clear it becomes that absolutely it got overshadowed, just like it did with Breath of the Wild. But it's not their fault. It's just timing. And so it's worth noting that if I'm not mistaken, and guys, somebody fact check me if I'm wrong on this, but I think Zelda Breath of the Wild sold 25 million copies. Again, fact check me if that number's inaccurate, but we know that Horizon sold 20 million. So it's like, it's not that bad. It's cool, man. It's cool. They're both succeeding. They're both succeeding. So no hard feelings towards anybody. Just, developers of these games should feel good, and the publishers should feel good, and the players should feel good, and there shouldn't be any saltiness. If there is any. I don't know if there is, but that's all. 25.8 million, around 26 million. Okay. So it's pretty close. And they're both at full yeah, that's true. That is true, Devil Shooter. Good call out there. It's worth noting that Nintendo is selling those all 26 million copies at full price. So that is the big difference between Horizon and Zelda. True. Yeah, that is true. That does make a difference for sure when it comes to the bottom line. But still, 20 million copies of any game, even if it's sold at $10, that's still a big deal, Like, I would be happy about that. I would be happy about that. Anthony Perez, you're saying, congrats on episode 100. Your live content, Press X live streams are my favorite type of content from you. Just like getting your takes. Congrats. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that, Anthony. Brett Williams, you're saying Doom Eternal official soundtrack is fire. Yeah, true. I didn't mention Doom. That is a big one. That is a big one. iSiler18, you're saying you should check out the highest Metacritic scores real quick. It's quite interesting. I'm gonna. Maybe I'll save it. I believe you. I know they're interesting. I don't know, man. I don't know. I've talked so much about review scores at this point. Magnum Visuals, you're saying, do you get confused with the Horizon Forbidden West combat system? So I don't get confused with it. My one criticism with Horizon, there is no game that has a perfect combat system. As far as I'm aware, of all the games I've played in all the years, there's no game that has a perfect combat system, but there are games that get very close to feeling like this is almost perfect. My big problem with Horizon's combat, I don't get confused. I mean, sometimes when I get confused with the weapons and trying to remember what does this do again? And I pull out the wrong one. That happens occasionally. But my thing with Horizon, and please tell me if I'm the only one who experiences this, maybe I just suck. I am a big fan of melee combat, and this game with machines in particular, it just does not. I have my melee fully upgraded. This game does not really encourage melee combat that much. It's good when it lands, but I feel like every time I'm trying to get in close and get in there and be like, all right, I'm gonna do some melee damage as Aloy here, fully upgraded, I just get knocked around like a fucking ragdoll, and I'm like, my camera's over here, I'm over here, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna back off, create some distance, and use some ranged attacks. And that it doesn't happen every time. By the way, guys, I know I should know this. Does Horizon have a lock-on system? I mean, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring too, and I know Elden Ring you lock on with R3, and I keep doing that, and I feel like it does nothing. And I don't know if it does have a lock on system. Maybe it doesn't. Somebody says yes, but most people are saying no. Yeah, see that I don't know. I understand why it doesn't have a lock on system. I understand because you are using a lot of. Hold on, I'm trying to. I see at least like one or two people saying it does have an auto lock or something. Is that like in the accessibility settings? Maybe it's more like an auto thing. Okay. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Like it just automatically. Yeah, I noticed that with the melee too. Like melee is weird to me in Horizon because there are times where it feels really good, where it's like, oh, I just destroyed that machine, one hit, or a combo attack. And then there are times where it's like the machine gets kind of far away from me, but I'm charging up my attack and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna miss this attack. And then Aloy literally like she like teleports like 10 more feet than she should have and ends up hitting the machine. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad I hit it, but that was a little off-putting. And it kind of makes me feel like, yeah, this game is not. I understand why it doesn't have lock on because it would make it probably too easy, in some ways. A lot of the, attacks you do with your weapons where you have to create some distance, it require, that's part of it. You have to be precise and you have to aim. But that's like, you're saying there's aim assist in the accessibility settings? Okay. That's the only thing that really bothers me that I feel like is missing with Horizon, that I would like to see them do something more with the melee, where maybe you could have more melee weapons. That's just how I prefer to play a lot of these types of games. And so I'm trying to readjust my play style to be more accommodating. And I know that they want to encourage you to try all the different weapons and the combinations. And I get that. I get that for sure. So that's like my biggest gripe with Horizon is just, I just wish Melee was more fleshed out and had more options and just felt smoother overall. But again, no combat system is perfect in my opinion. Maybe it's because I played too much Sifu before playing Horizon. I go in and I'm like, I want to beat the shit out of these machines. But I'm crazy too though, because like I'm taking on a Thunder Jaw, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go smack this bitch. Like I just go up to him and I'm just like charging my attacks, and I get knocked around like crazy. Like I'm just constantly getting knocked down, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm just gonna charge my melee attack and I'm just gonna beat you to death. And it's a freaking like Thunder Jaw, and it worked. It worked. I almost died a couple times, but hey man, it's how I want to play. All right. The Brownie Bro says 80 hours in Elden Ring feels like I just hit halfway. I do think that's another reason why Elden Ring is getting the type of praise it is, because it is a massive game, dude. That's what I talk. It is overwhelmingly huge. It is. I feel the same way. I'm nowhere near 80 hours, and that makes me feel weird because I'm like, I'm only like 35 hours. What am I, like 15 to 20% into this game? That's crazy. But like I said, Elden Ring is a game I will likely be playing for like a year over time. I'll just keep coming back to it. And the Brownie Bro, again, you're saying From Software notoriously doesn't lead the player by hand. In my opinion, a quest log might be leaning too much towards waypoint-based exploration. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started playing Horizon, they did have the Pathfinder option where you do turn everything off. And I haven't experienced the game that way, but I was like, it's interesting because to me, when I was given the option, I turned it on, and I want my handheld in Horizon, like not completely, but I just want to know what the F I'm doing and where I'm going, and it's interesting to me because I find that when I go to when I switch back and forth and I go and I play Elden Ring, I swear, man, like it feels good and it feels bad. You want to know why? Because it feels good because I'm like, well, I can do nothing wrong is what I mean to say. Like Elden Ring makes me feel like you can't do anything wrong in this because we're not telling you what the right thing to do is. Just go do whatever you want, and if you find something cool, but there have been times in Elden Ring, I'm going to be real right now, there are times in Elden Ring where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go explore. And I spend like 10 to 15 minutes just, in these wide open areas. And I'm like, I'm looking for that cave. Like, I need to find a cave, a boss, something. And I'm not finding anything. And I'm like, all right, you're saying you're wrong, MBG. You can totally mess up quest lines. Well, if you're talking about Elden Ring, no, of course. I just mean like they don't make it obvious. Like like one of the things that gives me severe anxiety in Horizon is, and it doesn't happen that often, but those times when I'm like, I'm about to, like, I meet like a new character or a new faction, and I'm clearly getting ready to do a mission, and they ask you, like, the character that you go up to, they ask you, you're like, are you ready to do this? And they give you have to choose, like, yeah, I'm ready, or no, I'm not. And I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I thought, am I missing something? Should I click no? Is there a bunch of stuff that I got to do before this? Am I not going to be able to do that stuff if I do this? And it's so weird because it's like in that moment, I'm like, I would have preferred that they didn't ask me that. Just please tell me, And to be honest though, that exact same thing, this is where there is a similarity. It's even worse in Elden Ring, because in Elden Ring, every character you come across, they're asking you questions. And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, yo, do you want to do this thing? You want to show me your fingers? And I'm like, what? My fingers? This seems like kind of like a trap. And then sometimes I say yes in Elden Ring, and then like nothing happens, and I'm like, oh, or I don't know what happened, and I'm confused. I don't know. I guess it's just the nature of. I feel like that is kind of somewhat the nature of open world games, where it's like you're gonna have to take a chance on something here, buddy. And somebody's saying that's the fun of it. Yeah, it is. It is. Dude, if there's one like revelation that I'm having with my gaming life, and I think that this is just because I am in the thick of playing two of the biggest open world games back to back. Maybe I just feel this way now because of that. But dude, there is a level of appreciation that I now have for linear games that I feel safe in linear games. I know that sounds weird to some people, but I just feel at home with linear games, and maybe it's because it's not that I turn my brain off, but maybe part of it is that, where it's like, yo man, you don't have to think about where to go. Just go down this path and beat some shit up and kill some shit and watch this cool cutscene and then do it again. And I'm like, huh, that sounds good to me. To whereas like when I'm every time I start up Elden Ring or Horizon, I just see this entire world and I'm like, my real life is overwhelming as it is. I don't even know what to do with my real life. How am I supposed to know what to do here? And I know it makes it sound like I'm not enjoying it. That's not true. It's just, what I'm saying is the difference in feeling that I experience with these different types of games is just so night and day. I don't think either of them are good or bad. They're just different. And it's fascinating. Yeah, so like I played Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was a purely linear game. And they're purely linear games do have their flaws as well. When I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy, it's kind of like it can feel too linear at times, where it's like enter area, shoot enemies, jump around, shoot more enemies, go to next area, solve very easy, simple puzzle, shoot more enemies, now watch cutscene. And like, it can get to a point where it's like, okay, it's like, it's becoming too linear, too rinse and repeat, where I feel like I don't even have, like I'm literally on rails. And I feel like the best open world, I like wide linear games. I think wide linear games are probably my sweet spot. But I feel like we don't get a ton of them. Ratchet, you're saying Ratchet and Clank did a good job? I agree. Ratchet and Clank is a good example, I think, of wide linear. I don't know if you guys hear my son in the background. He's like screaming. Let me see. We have Yogesh Yadav, you're saying Elden Ring is my first Souls game, and I 100%ed it. I 100% it in 6 days of time on my Series S. Trust me, MBG, this is a 100 meta game. Dude, that's insanely impressive, bro. You got 100% in Elden Ring in 6 days? God damn. Congratulations on that. No frame issues bother me at all. Well, that's what I mean, dude. That's what I mean. See, like, in your mind, in your experience, Elden Ring is a 10 out of 10, and nothing can dissuade you from that because that was your personal experience, and you didn't give a shit about the frame rate issues. You see? How much does a Metacritic score mean to you? How much do review scores mean to you? I can't answer that for you, obviously. I'm assuming nothing, but maybe that's the reason you bought it. You said it's your first Souls game, so that's interesting. It's interesting. Excuse me. Server error. You're saying the guys who shit on Horizon Forbidden West usually have no access and they did not play the game. PlayStation Nation is eating good and they mad. I mean, dude, I see like when Horizon came out, there was a different type of discourse, but it was coming from a different group of people. And when I saw this discourse happening, all I could think to myself is like, you guys don't have anything to play. Like, you know, like you're not playing games right now. You're just looking to, you know, stir a pot of shit here. And that's what they did. Space D, you're saying PlayStation is going to learn this gen that amazing graphics alone can only carry you so far. Elden Ring gameplay is 10 times better than Horizon Forbidden West. Space D, I do agree that I think there is certainly an upper limit with graphical fidelity and pretty graphics. I mean, gameplay is king. That is true. I do not agree with your statement, though. Elden Ring gameplay is 10 times better. I mean, that's your opinion. I disagree. But the reason why I disagree is because I'm playing both. And I think the combat, I don't know if I would say Elden Ring has better combat, but I would say that Elden Ring has the type of combat that I feel better with. Like, you know, I went on kind of my tangent about how I like to do melee in my games, and Horizon just doesn't really accommodate that very well. To whereas in Elden Ring, like that is one of the most and encouraged options is go beat the shit out and slice the shit out of everything. You know, the melee combat in Elden Ring is fantastic. It's amazing. And that is like very close to being perfection. But at the same time, there is a level of uniqueness offered in Horizon's combat where even though it's a little bit strange to me because it's unique and I'm like getting readjusted with, okay, these are all the different weapons. And I kind of forgot how like diverse the weapon selection is in Horizon. And it just, it makes for a very different experience. So 10 times better. I don't know about that, man. All I can assume is if you really believe that Elden Ring's gameplay is 10 times better than Horizon Forbidden West, then you must really hate Horizon Forbidden West gameplay for sure. But I think some of the combat engagements in Horizon are some of the most exciting. Like, honestly, I've noticed in Horizon, it's my fault because I'm the type of person with OCD where it's like every time I encounter a new character in Horizon, I have to extract every piece of dialogue. But I also annoy myself in doing that because I'm like, okay, I just want to go like kill some things now and really get in the action. But I also want to make sure I hear everything. And I start to feel like, okay, I need to just go out there and start hunting some machines just for the sake of doing it at this point. iSiler18, you're saying, wish you can turn off the messages on the ground for Elden Ring. 90%, 98% of them are trolls and they're everywhere. Dude, it's so funny, man. I saw this meme where it was like, I think it was like Thor when he was all like beat up and bloodied, but he was smiling. And it was like Souls vets when they finally find their first illusionary wall in Elden Ring. And I'm happy to report to everybody, I found my first illusionary wall, and it was just as satisfying as I hoped it would be. And I actually found 3, and I was quite surprised. So yeah, there are so many trolls in the game, man. And sometimes I read messages on the ground in Elden Ring and I see what they're saying and I just assume the opposite. I assume the opposite is true of what they're saying. And I feel like, yeah, I get how they could be annoying to some people. We have Zanarkand Blitzer, member for 7 months, play as no limits. Thank you, buddy. You're saying happy PXP 100 MBG. I really enjoy your content. Keep doing what you're doing. You're the Professor X of gaming, and we're your X-Men. That's it. That's a funny way of putting it. MBG, any longtime subscribers still here, possibly from the start. I don't know. I see somebody, although I do see somebody saying you can turn the messages off. I think you have to play offline, if I'm not mistaken, to turn the messages off. But yeah, I don't know how many people are here that have been here from the start. By the way, guys, we have 750 people here still hanging out with me, which is awesome. I really appreciate it. Please hit that like button for me. We're on the cusp of hitting 500 likes. Can we get, I literally can't happen because there's not enough people here. But I was going to say, can we get to 1,000 likes for episode 100? But maybe, I don't know. If we can get to 1,000 likes a day or two from now, I'll take it. If we can get to 1,000 likes at all. But yeah, hit the like button for me. So look, I basically just talked for like an hour here straight. Inspector Guru, you're saying, how do I become a member? There should, I don't know if you're on your phone or if you're at your desktop, but there should be a button underneath the video itself, kind of near where the like and dislike buttons are, where it says join. If you click the join button, it'll allow you to become a member. If you don't see that, it might be because it's not available in your region. I don't know where you're from, but there should be a button that says join. And I also have a link in the description of my podcast as well as all of my videos. So yeah, I appreciate that, man. So I do have other topics we want to talk about here. So I have in my title here, PlayStation State of Play. All right, so I want to have a discussion about this. So I'm actually going to tell you some of the topics we're going to talk about, hopefully before the end of this episode. The State of Play itself, I don't want to talk about the announcements because it doesn't matter. I live stream them. I want to have an overall, like just kind of a broader conversation around Sony, the way they're handling their distribution of information and content, and announcements and whatnot. I also want to talk about the rumors, the leaks, and some bullshit that's been going on with that. I want to talk about, if we have time, people want me to talk about the fact that Xbox was, I'll talk about this first. Screw it. We're going to talk about Xbox and their Metacritic scores, okay? Because I have some good and bad things to say about this. MBG fact check. This is how you know if it's a big announcement. One is you always see Jim Ryan at the start of a show. That's true. That is true. Jim Ryan usually does show up with the bigger announcements. Thank you. Thank you for that donation, Dexter. Appreciate that. All right, so I have an article here, again, from PlayStation Lifestyle, and it says Microsoft edges past Sony to become Metacritic's top publisher of 2021. It says, in a first, Microsoft has edged past Sony Interactive Entertainment to claim the crown for Metacritic's best video game publisher of 2021, comparing PS5 versus Xbox games in the calendar year. Microsoft averaged 87.4% across 10 scored products, whereas Sony averaged 81.3% across 11 scored products. Metacritic ranks publishers according to the following factors: average Metascore for games released in a particular calendar year, percentage of scored products with good reviews, percentage of scored products with bad reviews, and number of titles with a Metascore of 90 or higher. The first factor, average Metascore, is given slightly more weight than the others. 3 of Microsoft's published titles scored above 90: Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2, and Microsoft Flight Simulator. Halo Infinite settled for 87. Sony's lineup was led by Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, and Death Stranding Director's Cut. The company's off to a great start this year with Gran Turismo 7 and Horizon Forbidden West, but both games missed the cutoff for 2021. With all the aforementioned factors accounted for, Microsoft earned 346.0 points, and Sony earned 312.9 to claim second position. And so there's a few things I want to talk about with this. I don't want to talk about it very long, because I don't know how much I have to say about it, but here's what I want to say first of all. I'm going to congratulate Microsoft. I'm going to congratulate Xbox because they deserve it. Now, the truth is, I didn't touch my Xbox in all of 2021. I didn't play Xbox, and I didn't really play any of these games. And you know, I saw that towards the second half of the year for 2021, and I think a lot of people had issues with Microsoft in the first half of 2021 because they really just didn't have any games at all. Pretty much just the launch of the Xbox Series X, which was unfortunate, but they made a pretty big comeback in the second half of 2021. And I know that like we get into these conversations where it's like, well, the quality of Xbox games and blah blah blah. But look, man, I could sit here and I could say I could ask the question, well, does Halo deserve that score? Microsoft Flight Simulator. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I saw a lot of Xbox fans celebrating this on Twitter, and they were talking about how see, Xbox is turning it around, the perception of the quality of their games, and I just want to congratulate Xbox sincerely because look, we could, whether you think those games are good or not, that's hard to achieve. Like, that is hard to achieve. And there's no doubt that some of the games, like, I didn't play Forza Horizon 5, but I know that game looks like a 10 out of 10 racing game to me. Like, that is a high quality game. Flight Simulator, I haven't played it, but dude, people who love that game, they love it, man. And it looks visually impressive and people really enjoy it. And Psychonauts 2 was really good. And so, I think Sony taking second place, it's okay. Like, this is good. Like, this is what we kind of want to see, right? Like, this is the type of competition where Microsoft is coming out and they're like, we're trying to up our quality here. And ultimately we've agreed that it's kind of subjective. Well, it's like, would I take Halo Infinite over Returnal? For me personally, probably not, but does that mean Returnal is better than Halo? Is Halo better? I'm not having that conversation. We've had all those conversations. But I saw a lot of people, a lot of Xbox fans celebrating this, and good for them. Good for them. It's a far cry. It's a far cry from what Xbox looked like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I think that it's completely understandable that Xbox fans are feeling good about it. Now, there is another side to this conversation that I'm going to acknowledge. Okay? And there are no particular individuals. There are no particular names. There are no particular outlets. There's nothing specifically. But the thing about my position and my audience and just the way my content is and the way I've been for a long time, and I'm going to acknowledge it. Yes, I have been called out on my hypocrisy, and I have been hypocritical at times, and I've acknowledged this, and I've made it clear that I don't want to be hypocritical. That's the last thing I want to be. But I am also going to call out the hypocrisy when I see it. Now, if you are an Xbox fan who said before we learned about this, that Metacritic scores don't matter, that review scores like this don't matter, it doesn't matter, and you still are saying that, and you still feel that way, okay, I'm not talking to you then. What I'm saying right now is not even remotely applicable to you. But there were many times where I saw quite a few Xbox fans claim that Metacritic scores don't matter, that they don't. Review scores don't matter. They don't matter. And they wanted to make it clear that they just don't matter. All right. Now, I don't know how many of these same people are coming out here now and basically saying, check it out, Microsoft #1 Metacritic. All I'm going to say is that those people do exist. Their hypocrisy does not go unnoticed. I cannot keep track of them all. No, it would be weird if I did, but they exist. And that's all I have to say. When it comes to the genuine Xbox fans, the ones who care about the quality of the brand and they're advocating for Xbox to bring out good games and improve the quality and improve their studios and their talent, and they're celebrating that, to them, well earned, good job. But to all the hypocritical dumbasses out there that, just say dumb shit when it comes to review scores and Metacritic, and they just clearly put their foot in their mouth. I think at this point, you're not, like, you shouldn't be allowed to celebrate this with the people. You know what I mean? Like, if you said that Metacritic doesn't matter, if you said Metacritic scores are garbage or whatever, and they're just meaningless, then you don't get to celebrate it, and that's where, like, I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. That's the thing, is like, I've at this point, I made it clear over the course of this podcast that these Metacritic scores aren't relevant to me, really, but I know that they mean something to other people, and so that's what I have to say about it. I don't know why there are people using this as ammunition. They shouldn't be. If you are a fan of Xbox and you're not a toxic fan, then you don't care about Sony being in second place. You just care that Xbox came out on top in this case, and you feel good about it. See what I'm saying? It's that simple. And that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Yogesh, you're saying MBG offline is the best mode. I lost my 3 main boss fight save on my first playthrough because of internet connection. Sword of Night and Flame is meta. I'll keep that in mind. Dude. Yeah, maybe I've been playing a little bit of co-op in Elden Ring, so. But let me see. All right, so that's the Metacritic thing. While we're talking about Xbox, I do want to bring something else up, and I want to preface this, but I came across this article from VGC, and look, I don't know what to make of this, but it doesn't sound good, and I got to make one thing clear. Well, let me read the title. The article from VGC says, it looks like Perfect Dark has lost its game director. Dan Neuberger, I think that's how you say his name, is the initiative's second major design departure in a year, according to LinkedIn. I want to preface something here. I was very interested in the initiative when they were announced. This is like Xbox's new AAA studio where they're going to be doing something big. And I think in one of their job listings, they said that they were a quadruple A studio. And I was very interested to see what these guys were going to do. And I'm going to be honest right now. The reason for that interest was because I really did think that they were going to make a new IP. And I thought, if this is exactly what Microsoft needs, and the exact thing that's going to maybe bring my attention more over to Xbox, because I've been waiting for them to do something like that for a long time, is take a AAA team and make a new IP. And I thought it was even cooler that they were building a team from the ground up. And then they announced that they're doing a Perfect Dark reboot. And I have nothing against Perfect Dark. I've never played Perfect Dark. I've seen like some gameplay of it, but I've never played it. And it's never been something that I cared about at all. And so I can't sit here and pretend that I care about this Perfect Dark reboot. I am intrigued, though, especially, like, I hate to say it, but it's kind of the bad news that's surrounding this game, or the development of this game, that is making me intrigued, because I'm like, this is either going to be a really good game, maybe, or an okay game. It could be a great game. This could be an amazing game. We know Crystal Dynamics is apparently helping with it. Or this is going to be a disaster, and it's a disaster in the making. But, let's read this a little bit here. I don't want to make a bigger deal out of this than it may actually be, but it says here, Perfect Dark's game director appears to have quit Xbox developer The Initiative, according to his LinkedIn profile, as spotted by Xbox sleuth Clobriel. Dan Neuberger left the California-based studio last month. His profile page currently flags that he is looking for work elsewhere in design and director roles. Neuberger had worked at The Initiative for nearly 4 years and was previously a game director on the Tomb Raider series at Crystal Dynamics, the same studio which is now collaborating on Perfect Dark. The Perfect Dark director's exit marks at least the second major design departure on the project in the past 12 months, potentially more than a year ahead of the reboot's expected release. In February of 2021, Perfect Dark's design director, Drew Murray, announced he had left the initiative to rejoin his former employer, Insomniac Games. Murray cited personal reasons for his decision, to leave. And so, I've seen a lot of people talking about this, and you're gonna see two extreme takes. I'm gonna tell you what these extreme takes are right now, okay? You ready? On one side, you're going to have a lot of people who don't like Xbox and were never going to like this game. And they're going to tell you, holy shit, this is a dumpster fire. The entire studio's done. It's crumbling. It's on fire. It's over. It's over before it even started. What a joke. What a joke. They're done. And then you're going to see another extreme take where there's going to be people who feel the need to defend Microsoft, and they're going to be like, it's fine, dude, this happens all the time. This is totally normal. Nothing's wrong at all. This game's going to be perfectly fine. Both of these people are wrong. The reason being is because both of these people are making concrete assumptions about something they just don't know. What I will say, though, is if I'm leaning towards one side or the other, because of the timing of this, and because this is the second hire individual to leave, it does make me lean a little bit more towards this. I think this game might be in some type of development hell. And, it's unfortunate if that's true. It's unfortunate if that's true. I really do gotta wonder to myself, like, what this game is going to look like when we see it for the first time. And the game I'm talking about the Perfect Dark reboot from the initiative. So, dude, yeah. So I see you're saying Perfect Dark is a game as a service game. That is bizarre to me. There was a rumor that came out like I don't know if it was like a week or two ago or a couple weeks ago, where there was like a report, or I don't know who said it. I don't know where it comes from. So don't believe it. I just remember seeing some reports showing up online where it was like, this is a game as a service. And I'm like, isn't Perfect Dark supposed to be a single player game? And I don't know. You look at these things and you really just got to kind of wonder, are their studios still suffering from the same problem that they have had for years now? Let's put Bethesda aside. Obviously, we're going to put Activision aside, but let's put Bethesda aside, because as far as I'm concerned, Bethesda is not an internal Xbox studio in the traditional sense. You know what I mean? They were purchased to be added in so Microsoft could slap their Xbox Game Studios logo on them. But when you talk about from Microsoft internally, from them, Xbox Game Studios at the very core, I feel like the initiative, if they bring this game out and they show it and it just looks like bad, and people are like, holy shit, this does not look good. I mean, you got to wonder, and Fable. We got to see Fable, man. That's another one with Playground Games. I just wonder, like, are they still having problems? You look at the development of Halo Infinite, and that game clearly went through some serious development hell. Apparently, it cost $500 million to make, and the management was just not good, and it was all over the place. Luckily, it seems like they were able to pull it together just enough to, like, get good review scores, which is good, and people are still playing it. But I don't know, man. I see somebody mentioning the Avengers. Yeah, that's where you got to really wonder, like, are they basically taking the same approach that Square Enix did with the Avengers, where it's like, you can make an amazing single-player game, make it a focused single-player game, and people will flock to it. But instead, they're like, or we can make it a game as a service and exploit the fact that we have the Avengers, and it failed. It failed horribly, and it's kind of ironic that now Crystal Dynamics is working on this game. So I'm not going to pretend like this is a disastrous thing. We don't know. For all we know, maybe, I don't want to say his work is done on the game, because it's clearly not, but maybe I don't know. These things do happen. I mean, even with Sony Studios, higher ups leave Sony Studios all the time. I mean, after God of War 2018 shipped, I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but quite a few high-level developers who worked on God of War 2018 left. And some of them even went to Microsoft. And it's like, do we now believe that Halo Ragnarok, that God of War Ragnarok is going to be disastrous and it's going to be no. These things do happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but to me, this is just fascinating. It's fascinating, and I am super interested to see at this point. Again, maybe not for not so great reasons, but I just want to see, like, okay, the initiative, you've been working on this game for a long time. You've lost some staff. You got Crystal, like a lot of people. Again, a lot of people told me that the fact that Crystal Dynamics is now working with them and partner with them, that's a good thing. That's not a bad sign. That's a good sign. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it? Is it? So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Perfect Dark. But I thought that was interesting, again, just because I am eager to see how this game turns out. Not because I want to shit on it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I look at it and it looks like trash, I'll be like, damn, that doesn't look very good. But I just want to see, like, this is Microsoft's attempt at building a AAA studio from the ground up. You're saying MBG Daryl Gallagher is the big fish here. He is the head there and is still in charge of the team. That's true. And that's what gives me, like, if Daryl Gallagher left, oh man, I think that would be a fucking problem for sure. Like, I don't think anybody could spin that like, oh, everything's fine. But that's true. He's still there. So we'll see, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yoshinori Ono left Capcom. That's true. Again, I don't want to make it sound like it's doom and gloom. It's just it's not a good look, you know? It's never a good look when stuff like this happens, but it does kind of make me raise my eyebrow a little bit like, yeah, it's Fabrice, it is true. It's really hard to build a studio. So I don't expect them to knock it out of the park. I'm going to be real. Like I'm not expecting like a massive like, oh my god, this is. But do you guys remember the way this studio was talked about? I don't want people to forget this because this is also why I'm interested. The initiative was talked about as this is Xbox's studio that's going to compete with the big boys at Sony, right? Like this is going to be what competes with the God of Wars and the Last of Us's, and I'm like, and the, you know, and the Horizons, and I'm like, okay, all right, let's see it. You know, like I'm curious. Paul Ganell, thank you so much for becoming a member. Greatness awaits. Welcome aboard, buddy. Really appreciate that. All right, let me see. So the next topic I want to talk about is this state of play. All right. Oh boy, look. I can't deal with the hyperbole anymore, man. I cannot deal with all of the hyperbole anymore. That state of play was amazing. That state of play was complete trash. From where I'm sitting, neither of those things are true. It was not amazing, nor was it trash. It was fine. And you know why it was fine? Because it was exactly what it should have been. But I am guilty. I am guilty. I'm not going to sit here and say that and pretend that I did not talk about rumor after leak, after insider after insider. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't do that. Okay? And I had a fucking wake-up call this past week. Like, seriously. I had a wake-up call this last week. And I want to explain my position to you guys, okay? And I want to do that. Like, this is more for me than, I mean, this is for you, but this is more for me because I know that you guys who are here right now listening, you guys are the ones who care about me. Probably as a person, but certainly as a content creator, and clearly you support what I do. And there's nothing more disappointing to me on a personal level, not even just a professional or content creator level, of course on those levels, but on a personal level, there's nothing more disappointing to me than when I feel like I let down my audience and I let down the people who really do support me. And in a way, it makes me feel like I let down myself. And the reason why I feel this way, not entirely, but the reason why this feels so prominent is because I know why I do what I do. And I need to have this like completely open and honest conversation. And I'm going to have this conversation with you full well knowing. And then I'm going to show you how human I really am, right? I'm going to have you guys might hear a fire truck go by. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to have this conversation with you knowing that I may not completely improve. Like I may slip back into certain patterns. Because, I'm a human, man. Like I'm not perfect. But, okay, so for those who don't know, I made a video. I think it was at the very beginning of last week or maybe right before that. And this video I made, I talked about a rumor from a supposed insider. And this supposed insider just popped up on Twitter and they weren't known. And they essentially said something that it immediately caught my attention. And they said that apparently Sony has, they have a game in the works. They have a game in the works from it's a well-known IP. And they're going to announce it at the end of this year. And because nobody knew who this person was, they essentially, they said in their Twitter that, oh, I had an account previously. And my account was deleted because of a copyright strike. And I had 10,000 followers. And I remember when I first came across this information, I found it on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. And I was skeptical because I was like, well, maybe this guy is just making this up. How do we know that this is really the person they claim to be? This could just be a random person making an account, which it turns out it was. And I was reading the replies and what people were saying in this subreddit post, and some people were saying, I don't know if it could have been the person who made the post. It could have been that individual who made that Twitter account. They made the post themselves. But people, at least one person, maybe two, said that, oh yeah, this was that account. This was that account from that person who leaked something Pokemon related, and then they got a copyright strike and their account was deleted. Now, I don't even know if that was true. But here's where the fucking problem comes in with me. When I saw that, something just lit up in my mind where I'm like, I just dove in, dude. I didn't check to see if this is shallow water. I didn't check to see if this was even water. It could have been a pool of acid. And I just dove in and didn't even give it a second thought. And the reason being is because I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that this is an actual insider and this is true what they're saying. Now, in my video, this person ended up calling me out, rightfully so. They called me out because in my video, I said, I don't know exactly what I said. I mean, the clip's out there, it's quoted, where I pretty much said, I looked into it and this person seems legit. I think that's about what I said. I said, I looked into it and this person seems legit. And my extent of looking into it was I read this Reddit post and I saw a few people who were probably in the same mindset that I was, just believing what they want to believe. That, oh yeah, dude, this is that guy who had that account and he got some stuff right and he got a copyright strike. Surely this is the same guy. So it checks out. We're good. I can be excited about this. Yeah. And then what I did is I took that excitement that delusional excitement that was not founded on anything. There was no foundation. There was no reason for this excitement other than my selfish desire of, I want this to be true. And then I put it in a video form. And I made the big mistake where you guys know, I'm sure many of you do watch my videos. Anytime I talk about rumors, anytime I talk about insiders and leaks, when we will occasionally still talk about them, I always say to you guys, take it with a grain of salt and be careful. Okay? Like, take it with a grain of salt. And I didn't say that this time. And I just was like, what the hell? Like, why? Why didn't I say it? And people were calling me out like, you're lying to your fucking audience, bro, you're a liar. And I'm like, look, I can't defend myself because I understand that that's how it looks. But at the very least, I can explain that it was just a mistake. You know what I mean? And it was a wake-up call, though, because it made me realize that, dude, I let my excitement for things that could be, that might be, that may be, I let my excitement for those things just completely take over. And it drives me, it drives my content, and it drives my decision making. And this time, it drove me to make a mistake where, in a moment where I should have said, we don't know if this is true, take this with a grain of salt. This could be completely made up bullshit. It drove me to just be so gullible that I didn't even realize that I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. That's how much I wanted to believe. Because you know why? Because I thought it was Metal Gear Solid. I was convinced that, dude, this is it. This is it. And I just wanted it so badly to be true. And this feeds into a bigger problem. Okay, this feeds into a bigger problem. And I cannot make a promise to you guys. I don't like making promises, but I can at least tell you where my efforts will be, where what I'm putting my effort towards. I have this problem. Okay, and I don't have a problem with that person who did that, because that's on me, dude. I took the bait like entirely. I don't have a problem with that person because people are gonna do that shit. All right. But here's my problem that I have now. The reason why I get like this, and this is just me being like completely transparent with everybody. The reason why I get like this sometimes, and it's so easy for me to get like this sometimes, is because I do this for a living. This is what I do for a living, and I care about it a fucking lot. I do. Like, I care about my YouTube channel. I care about the content. I care about being able to keep up with it, because I like it's like a dream come true. You know what I mean? Like, it's, hey, I always wanted to have a career maybe talking about games, and I love video games. I'm passionate about them. And this idea that I could make a living doing what I love, it's the dream, And unfortunately, with the nature of YouTube and the nature of all of this, you always have to be grinding. You got to keep going. You got to make sure you're always on top. You're always on top, and you're not slowing down, because if you slow down, you might get left behind. Maybe this will come to an end, right? Stuff like that. Like, these are, I'm just giving you a little bit of insight into my mind and why you see some of the content you do. And I've had like a real struggle this last week with what happened, mainly because, do you know what I realized that I can't stand anymore? What I can't stand anymore is exactly what I said earlier. I can't deal with the hyperbole. I can't deal with the fact that what is accepted on YouTube. See, what you say, I mean, look, what people say and how they present things matters. And what bothers me more than anything is what is seemingly acceptable on YouTube is being hyperbolic about everything, over exaggerating everything. And it's gotten to a point where it is so universally accepted on YouTube and on social media as a whole that it's like if you decide you don't want to partake in that bullshit, you're going to be punished for it. And that drives me fucking nuts with doing this. Because I don't want to have to say, like, huge, massive leak. Because, like, what the fuck am I even talking about? Nobody knows, but that's it. People want that. I'm not saying you guys, but that is what succeeds on these platforms. You're saying the first rule of YouTube, do not talk about YouTube. But it's and that's the thing, is like, that's right, MB, just like PlayStation is doomed. And I feel like I gotta put that in my title and my thumbnail because it's ridiculous. And it's like, if I lay it out just what it actually is, if I lay it out for what it actually is, somebody else is not going to do that. Somebody else is going to stretch the truth. Somebody else is going to be as hyperbolic as they can get away with and make everything sound greater than it actually is. And people are going to be okay with this. And that is my biggest problem, is that YouTube and people on and just this whole thing, people are okay with this. This is what they want. And I'm not blaming you. I do it too. Like it's because it's preying on human nature, man, on human curiosity. Where if I see a thumbnail or a title where it says, is this like, this is insane, or what even is this, or just something ridiculous, you know, it's just going to naturally catch your attention more so than the title or the thumbnail that's more thought out and more has a greater explanation and gives you a better idea. It just frustrates me. It frustrates me because I realize that this is the downfall of me anyway, to an extent, where that's why I got duped so easily. That's why I made the mistake that I did, saying, MBG, you're defining clickbait. I know that. I know that's what it is, but it sucks, dude, because I don't know if any content creator really wants to do that, but it's just that for every person that's willing to not do that, there's going to be 10 other people who are. And it's about drawing lines, you know? You're saying clickbait is used because it works, but there are limits. You need to know where to stop. I agree. It's like, you know, I've made, I'm sure you guys have seen, I've made thumbnails where I've literally explained, like, in depth in my thumbnail and my title exactly what you're getting in the video. You know, just say huge massive leak and give us a wink. There you go. RU46N2 Ray, a member for 8 months. Players No Limits Plus. Thank you, buddy. You're saying we all make mistakes, MBG. Everyone's made more than one, but you're not still saying it real. You let people know that you made a mistake. People are going to troll, but I will still go to your channel for news. Keep up the good work. Well, I appreciate it. And that, you know, I do appreciate it, really. It's just, I know that it's not going to stop just like that. You know what I mean? Like, I know that the next cycle of rumors and leaks and all this stuff, it's right around the corner, and I'm well aware of that. But I am just taking a different... I'm not even going to say that I'm taking a different approach, because it's more than that. Like, my mindset has completely shifted, is the best way to put it. I am now more skeptical than ever before. I am more cynical than ever before because of this. Maybe now I am just more inclined to assume that it's bullshit. And I feel like this is just going to benefit me in general. Certainly me, but I feel like it will benefit my audience as well. And I feel like what we can do with this new mindset and this new mentality is, I want to cultivate a channel where people are not here because they want to believe like this is the big shit when it's clearly not the big shit. You know what I mean? Like I just can't. And a part of that is it's personal. It's me as well. Is what I'm talking about. Like I have my own desires of what I want to see from PlayStation and certain developers and games. And I again, it's like with the whole blue box thing. People like that is the greatest example of I wanted it so badly that I was seeing things the way I wanted to see them. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like there was shit that was weird where like at one point everybody was like, "Yo, what's going on here?" But I held on to it longer than most people because I wanted to believe. Like I was like, "There's no way. There's no way this isn't what it is. Like, look, this is it." And I found, and it's like over time, it kind of sunk in where it's like, dude, it's not, man. Just give it up, you know? And that's the thing is Gavin, you're saying some of the best streams MBG, and it's like, you're right. You're right. There can be a good aspect to this, but it's a matter of, I'll put it to you this way. With the blue box thing and with a lot of other things, I go from 0 to 100. You know what I mean? And I did that with the blue box thing. I did that with a lot of these, like, guys, I even said to you in my latest videos, where I'm like, guys, we're hearing that Sony's going to have a show. They're going to have a show. They have something coming up. And I told you that I'm thinking it's a showcase. But why is that? Like, MBG, use your brain, man. When has Sony ever done a showcase in March? When has Sony ever done it? Like, why am I believing that it's a showcase and not just the average state of play? And it's because it's the hopefulness. I want it to be a showcase because that's way more exciting. Like, that's the big shit that we all get excited about. But it's like, dude, there's no evidence, none whatsoever, that there's going to be a showcase. And I just, that's what I'm talking about, guys. And so what we ended up getting after all of this, from the start of January to this week in March, we got a state of play, which again, with the suffocation, to be dramatic, of the hyperbole, we have, again, it was amazing, 10 out of 10, Sony killed it, and we have, it was a travesty, the worst piece of garbage I ever witnessed, Sony is the worst, and it's neither. It's right here. It's what it was always going to be. Sony doing a state of play in March where there's nothing that exciting, nothing over the top, nothing mesmerizing. The hype is not real. It's just an average state of play where there might be a couple things that tickle your fancy. And that's exactly what it was. And I'm done, man. Like, I'm done with the bullshit. I'm done getting my hopes up and then in turn getting other people's hopes up because I am feeding the very thing I hate. I am feeding, by doing that, I am feeding the very thing that I can't stand. And I'm just not doing it anymore. Like, I'm not going to come out here and say, like, this is huge unless it's actually huge. Now that don't get me wrong, like, I don't want to make it sound like everything I've done. It's not everything. Like, there were times where we were talking about Horizon Forbidden West. We got, like, a new trailer. We got a new piece of information. Like, we saw the Slitherfang. And I would put in my thumbnail, like, this is huge. Or, like, this is crazy. And that is not disingenuous because that's me. Like, that's real. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, holy shit, that actually looks crazy. And people see that, like PlayStation fans see that. And maybe there are some people who are not as excited for Horizon that think, well, I don't think that's crazy. It's like, but they're not going to be mad because they know that there are a lot of big fans of this game that actually do think that think that this looks insane, this looks incredible, you know? So, you talk about lines, it really just kind of comes down to if there is any reason, any inclination whatsoever that you should be skeptical, that here's a good one. Like, and you're saying, sadly, I can't believe your words on this, MBG. This wasn't the first, second, or third time. I need to see you be different and not just say it. You know what? I totally agree, man. I'm glad you said it because, I mean, that's my job here, right, with this podcast, to talk. I'm not an actor here. This is the podcast where I speak, so I get it. Like, I'm not asking anybody for anything really, other than just the general support that you guys show for those who do appreciate what I do and you like me as a content creator. Other than that, I'm not really I'm not asking you to trust me on this or anything. I'm not doing that because it is true. It's a matter of doing, not saying. But right now, the best I can do in this exact moment is say. And so, yeah, I mean, I know that for a lot of people listening to this, they're probably gonna be like, dude, this doesn't matter. Who cares? Just do your thing. And I get that. Like, I'm not trying to make this more dramatic than it has to be. If it comes off dramatic, it's just because, like I said, I care about this a lot. It means a lot to me. It's important to me. And I certainly don't expect it to mean as much to any of you as it does to me because, it's a channel that I created here. But I feel like I owe you guys this explanation. And frankly, this is just a little bit cathartic for me. And so I appreciate you hearing me out. You're saying don't focus on the 1%. I agree with that as well. But again, you would talk about lines, you talk about morals, you talk about principles, and I'm just not really the type of person. I cannot in good conscience just do things because I see other people doing it, even if they're succeeding doing it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, it's painful. It's painful. And I think people recognize that to an extent. And that's why they kind of get on me about it, because they're like, dude, like, that's not you. And it's like, you're right. That's not me. Like, there are things that are worth being excited about. So I don't know. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. This doesn't mean that like my now when I make a thumbnail for a video, there's just going to be no pictures. It's just going to be literally an entire paragraph taking up the whole thumbnail, word for word, like what I'm saying, or not like that. There needs to be a balance where you don't want to give everything away. I mean, what's the fun in that? This is supposed to be about fun. It is supposed to be about entertainment and enjoyment, and obviously, but yeah, I had to. The reason why the state of play is just integral to this conversation is because, that's the thing that I'm trying to eliminate from not only my personality, because it is a detriment to me as well as my content, but it's the very thing that I'm trying to get completely away from everywhere, not just online, on Twitter, on YouTube, but in real life as well. I don't want anything to fucking do with the hyperbole anymore, with the exaggerations, with the over the top, whether it's overly positive or overly negative. It's just as meaningless. I'm throwing that shit out alongside Metacritic scores, review scores. It's in the same pile of trash to me. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that and kind of go on my little, not a rant, but just kind of ramble on about that. So with that being said, I need to see if I have any more. I don't think I have any more topics. The only other topic I have listed here, but I don't know that, I mean, I could talk about it a little bit. And actually, I think I might be interested to see what you guys have to say, is Forspoken has been delayed to October. Now, how do you guys feel about this? Because we last heard that... Hold on, I'm just curious. John O., you're saying, after that video about that analyst, I'll just play and see things for myself. So, yeah, what did you guys think of that video for those who watched? Well, I see a lot of you guys saying you think it's good that Forspoken got delayed. That video I made about Michael, I think Michael Pachter, right, the analyst. What did you guys think of that? Like, to me, I thought that would be a good middle ground video where it's like my thought process behind that video was, I'm going to be real. Like, I thought that what he's saying is completely, it's a massive exaggeration. And I didn't want to just like shit on the dude, but I just kind of wanted to present what this guy is saying to you guys. And then deconstruct it and tell you guys, look, I don't know what Michael Pachter's going on about. To be honest, I don't follow him. And a lot of people were telling me, here's the one thing that, see, this is where like I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Some people were telling me that Michael Pachter does this shit on purpose for attention. Like he doesn't actually mean anything he's saying. He's just trying to create artificial clicks and get people's attention. And I see that to me is, it's kind of seemed that way a little bit where it's like, man, this guy is wrong a lot. Like he's wrong about like, and he's not even just like a little wrong. Like he's really, really wrong. And so if that's true, then I'm not saying I regret that video, but like if that's genuinely what he was trying to get, I wish I wouldn't have made that because like I don't know. How can he be considered a video game analyst at that point? He's a video game troll, you know? You're saying my stream is stuttering? That might be on your end. Everything seems good on my end. All right, but yeah, talking about Forspoken, I think it's great. I think it's great that Forspoken's getting delayed because I'm very much in the middle with this game, man. The story aspect and the main character of this game, I am not feeling it at all. I'm not feeling like a lot of you guys are saying it's stuttering. I don't know. I don't know why it would be stuttering. I don't know if maybe my... Well, either way, there's nothing I can do about it. A lot of people are saying it's good, so hopefully it'll sort itself out. But, I don't know how you guys feel about Forspoken. Here's how I feel about Forspoken as of right now. I am sold on the world. I'm sold on what seems to be a really cool way to traverse the world, where you basically have like superpowers and you're like flying all over the place or massive jumps and whatnot. I'm sold on a lot of the bosses and creatures in the world. I'm sold mostly on the combat, but I have to see more of it. But like that latest trailer did a really good job in making me feel like this game looks like a game I want to play. Like this looks like a fun game to play. But man, when it comes to what the story is doing and the characters and the dialogue, I like tune out to the point where like, okay, I don't know that this is going to be for me. And so I could see Forspoken being one of those games where I love to play it. I love the world. I love the action. I love the combat. I love the RPG aspects, but I can't stand the characters and I don't care about the story and I certainly don't care about the dialogue. And yeah, that's kind of how I could see Forspoken playing out because they've released quite a few trailers so far about the story of the game, about like the premise and whatnot. And I'm not saying it looks like horrible. It doesn't look horrible, but it to me, it's making me just kind of wince a little bit and be like, I don't know about the story here, So the one tough aspect of it, and I've seen a lot of people talk about Forspoken this way, they say like they're just not, they don't think it looks like horrible or bad, but they're not sold on the idea of paying $70 for this game. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair because if this is like a single player or action RPG and they're putting a lot of emphasis on the story, it would be kind of difficult maybe for a lot of people to pay $70 for a game where they're not entirely sold on it, Like I feel like with a game like Returnal, that was $70. That was pretty clear cut. Like you knew what you were getting with Returnal. Story you knew was going to be kind of ambiguous. You're going to have to figure it out. There's not going to be long drawn out cutscenes, and you know that it's basically like a roguelite type game. So you knew what you were getting. But with Forspoken, it comes off as like you kind of know what you're getting, but maybe not entirely. And I think it just feels like there's more risk involved with a game like Forspoken, because if you pay $70 for that and you're like 3 hours, maybe like you're 5-6 hours in, and you're like, oh my god, I can't stand this. Like this story is complete garbage. I can't stand the characters. I can't, and even the combat is not, it's not doing it for me. I don't know. I feel like some people do kind of really feel that way. So I don't know. I think it has a lot of potential, and I think that the latest trailer they released definitely did it way more justice. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they have more time, because I feel like if they can utilize this time properly, they might be able to do something really good for this game. Like there's a big dragon in the game, and I'm like, that looks sick. You know, what's that going to be like? So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Forspoken at this point. We have Ghostwire Tokyo. You know, the next couple of months are going to be interesting, because we have Ghostwire Tokyo, and somebody in the chat, correct me if I'm mistaken. Oh, sorry, Jimmy. I missed your super chat, buddy. I just saw it now. You're saying, I love the idea of a protagonist from our world transported into a fantastical realm. Yeah, I feel like that can go one of two ways. I think the idea of it's not like new, but it's definitely always an interesting one. But I feel like how they handle it is going to be important, because it's like, the thing about that type of premise is you're gonna have to be sold on the character, on the actress in this case. Like, I don't want a situation where she's like overacting, where it's like, oh my god, I'm in a new world, this is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, you get that sometimes from that type of premise. But if they can sell it good, well, and make it not cringy, then I think it can be good. And so we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So, you know, just where we can kind of round this off and end it, the next couple months are going to be interesting, and I want the chat to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but the only game we're getting now that we know about within the next like 3, 4, or 5 months is Ghostwire Tokyo. Unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think Sony has anything else lined up. They don't have anything lined up for April, May, June, July, or September. And so we'll have to, yeah, you're saying Q2 is looking pretty barren. Yeah, I am going to be interested to see what Sony planned. Like, clearly Sony's going to have to fill in the gaps. You know, they can't go like 5 or 6 months without saying or doing nothing. And in between that time, we'll get we're going to have the summer E3 time. Apparently E3 isn't dead now. Yeah, and there's PSVR 2. So we'll definitely get some stuff between now and the release of Forspoken. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how these, because I feel like Sony's been doing they were so front loaded this year, if you think about it, you know, like Sony just released a whole payload of games within a matter of 2 months, back to back. And so we'll have to see what they end up doing. But the good news is these are some pretty massive games. You know, people are going to be playing Horizon and GT7. And even though Elden Ring isn't a Sony game, they're going to be playing that too as well. So, yeah. But I think that's it, guys. That's pretty much all I have for episode 100. I think it was you guys can tell me, you can leave a comment on the stream when we're done. I felt like this episode was different. I do. Maybe I just feel that way from my perspective, but I feel like this was a different episode. I felt like this was this episode was more grounded. I thought it was real. I thought it was kind of raw. You know, I thought it was reflective. It was contemplative. It was a lot of different things, you know, and I just hope that I'm properly setting the tone. I hope that I'm properly setting the tone going forward for what I hope to achieve on the channel here. And I hope you guys, more than anything, I hope you enjoyed it. You guys came out in force today for episode 100, showed a ton of support, and I sincerely thank you guys for that. I mean, you guys donated a lot of super chats, members, all that stuff. You know, you guys leaving a good amount of likes on the stream. Seriously means a lot to me. Really appreciate it. I seriously couldn't do what I do here if you didn't support me in that way. Magnum Visuals, you're saying Returnal DLC with its endless tower. Yeah, true, man. True. I didn't mention Returnal at all during this episode, but that was to me the biggest highlight of the state of play. The fact that they're bringing a endless wave-based tower and co-op. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't see that coming. So that was pretty cool. That was a nice little surprise. But yeah, that does it. That's episode 100 in the books. Next up, we have episode 101, Crazy Milestone. That'll be next Sunday, and so yeah, we'll see what this upcoming week brings, and you know, I'll try to keep, I'll try to keep the regular content flowing. Maybe with some slight alterations here and there, but nonetheless, I'm going to try my best to create content that you guys will appreciate. Zay Very Rare, you're saying, MBG, I really appreciate you owning up to your mistakes. Makes me respect you even more. Thank you. Well, no problem, man. I mean, that's the thing here, you know? Like, I talked really early in this podcast episode about, like, oh, could I see myself doing this over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And it's like, obviously, I would love to. Like I said, this is like a dream come true. But if I'm going to be able to last that long, you know, I'm going to have to be honest with myself, honest with my audience, transparent, and I'm going to have to learn, and I'm going to have to be able to own up to my mistakes during those critical moments and those critical times. Because I feel like your mistakes can either make or break you, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's just an important thing that you got to be able to recognize. So I'm glad you enjoy it, man. But that does it, guys. I have to do a quick shout out for all of my channel members. First off, I want to shout out Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for the podcast each week. They come a little bit after the podcast ended, so maybe like a couple hours later, but I know that you guys really appreciate it. So big shout out to Devil Shooter. Thank you so much for doing that on a weekly basis, man. We really owe you a lot there. But we also have my higher tier member shout out. So we have Play Has No Limits Plus. Big shout out and thank you to Junior Jackson, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, PlayStation Pete, RU46 N2 Ray, Icyler 18, Whiskey Gaming, Pragmaticat, Chris B, Hidden Leaf 2 Taka, Morgan Anstein, and Nakamichi. And then we have Play Has No Limits. So shout out to Ivanoa Kachofel, Kenneth A. Kramer, Rune Gasoden, Black Waifus, Ryan Butcher, John Renzi, Zanarkand Blitzer, Space Gambler Jr., AJ Saeed, JD TV, Sir Speaks a Lot, Ashorty Faye, Big Norman 0518, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, Sane JT, Brandon Chad Perez, Adrian Lupton, Introvert Gaming Dude, and Kevin Kahan. So thank you guys once again so much for choosing to support me on a monthly basis as channel members. Definitely appreciate that. So, all right, guys, I'm going to head out now. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to chill out for the rest of my Sunday, and I will catch you all in the next video that I make. So, till then, guys, take care, and thank you.